Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of March 9th, 2016. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And I believe there was a request to bring something forward.
Yeah, I thought we'd do that right after the minutes.
Okay, sure. The next is the submission of the minutes of the previous meetings, items A, 1, and 2.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Clerk is right. I asked if we could move I-1 forward, if we could get a motion for that, to move I-1. Thank you. So motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I-1 is being pulled forward so we can speak with Mr. Robert Holt about Keep Bristol Clean 2016. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. In front of you, you have the flyer, and you've been given a letter to tell what's going on. So before we announce it, April 23rd, 2016 will be the official Keep Bristol Clean, right here. And you have a council letter too, I believe. Okay? It's the same as last year, only it's a little bit earlier. We happened to get lucky and hit school vacation, so we're hoping for more children that day. I'll give you a few facts and then answer any questions. I apologize for my assistant, Carol Mello, who does a lot of the paperwork and everything. Her daughter's in a concert at RWU. This is our 28th year, very successful. You can go to the town's website, which will be www.bristol.rhode-island.us. It'll be on March 15th. It'll be on the website. I have contacted Stan Demick from Save the Bay. He's on board. He was going to try to get here today, but he'll also be with us, which is a great plus for that day. We're going to set up for Mr. Sweeney information recycling station. We'll have all products, and we'll try to tell them, show them what they can do and can't. We have 37 sites that will be cleaned. Hopefully we can fill them all. We have roughly 150 volunteers, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Last year, with the extra money that we received from donations, we gave the recreation a recycling station set up in their building. Right. This year, we hope to do the same. We haven't picked a site yet, but we have a few in mind. Thank you for your help that day, and thank you for your help with this program. That's all I have to say.
You do a wonderful, wonderful job with this. I'm sorry Carol hasn't been able to be here tonight.
She does all the paperwork. I feel bad. She felt bad. I mean, I'm they set up, and the go-to guy, she's in the office, gets all the calls, and has to answer a lot of questions. That day you don't have to put out your blue bin. So that's all I can tell you.
Well, if you do, you've got to put out the trash, too.
So we're going to waive the blue bin for Earth Day, please.
Bob, this is an absolutely great thing, and it's been going, I think, since 1989.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, not only for the fabric of the town, but for the pride of the townspeople. And it's not only a cleanup day, but it's an influence for the rest of the year for everybody to be careful. And I do think that insofar as gross littering goes, that our citizens are better about refraining from throwing down scrap paper and stuff than they used to be. And your yearly action with this is no doubt a good influence that. Here's Stan coming here, and we know he's a very important part of it.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that...
I call him Mr. Thames Street.
I think that I speak for us and for many citizens that we're very grateful to you for taking charge of it, and we hope this will be more successful than ever.
Well, I give a lot of thanks to DPW, my director. They all help out that day. They give up a Saturday, and it's quite a lot of work, but they love doing it. So, I mean, you're right. I go by the playgrounds, I go by the parks. I don't see a lot of litter. People are pretty good. So it's a plus for everybody. The other thing I would like to say, you're going to probably see our banners up at the four busiest intersections or corners where we put them, and we're working on designing new ones for next year to kind of give it a little upbeat. They've been like 18 years old, and they're getting stale. But next year we hope to have some new, fresh ideas.
So, Bob, if I'm at home and I want to be part of this and I show up, what do I need to bring? Do I need gloves? What am I bringing?
You show up at 9, we give you coffee, orange juice, water.
Sounds like you're taking blood.
Donuts, health bars, and we give you gloves, bags, a site. Carol will sign you in. We'll, if it's children a certain age, we don't put you in a dangerous spot. We'll try to put you on the town common where you're protected. The older kids, we might give them a place where, cars and everything. We put up signs and everything. You come in, sign up, you go to your site, we give you everything. We give you a little folder, a little packet that tells you, what to do with needles. We call the police, tells you everything, takes you through the whole thing. The most impressive thing in 28 years that I have seen, we hit rain a lot of times, and a few years ago we hit it bad, and I don't know what made us go to Benny's, but we bought all these pockets for $1, and we had 85 people show up, even in the rain, to pick litter, which, again, I thought was very impressive for that. But
So show up and you'll take care of the rest.
we'll take, show up, comfortable shoes and whatever, and that's it. I maybe Stan, want to say anything, Sid? I know Stan, but I thank you.
Thank you for your coordinated efforts and your dedication over the years for this program.
I was just going to say the same thing. It's been a pleasure all these years working with Bob and DPW on Keep Bristol Clean. And of course, we're happy to help out. And we'll be, now that it's official, we'll be putting it on the Save the Bay website so I can get my own group of volunteers to help at the back end of the harbor. We didn't use fancy ponchos the year that it rained. We used trash bags. We had makeshift raincoats with trash bags. And that was a group of students from out of state. We get people from like all over. Like we get people from Connecticut, Massachusetts that want to help out, and so it's been a fun experience all around. So I apologize. I had no idea you were going to be, talking about this so quickly in the start of the meeting. It's only 7:10. So thank you.
Got to move to the front.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Thanks, Bob.
So I said show up, and just for clarity's sake, we're going to show up, you're going to show up at 111 Mount Hope Ave. That's the DPW headquarters. So that's 111 Mount Hope Ave, obviously, in Bristol. And show up around 9 o'clock, and they'll direct you and point you where to go. So,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we receive and file this correspondence for the Keep Bristol Clean I-1.
Second.
there's a motion.
I think we ought to also bring it up again, though, at the meeting just prior to the event.
That's an excellent idea, Halsey. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. The other matter, Mr. Chairman, about the withdrawal.
Yes.
We did receive communication from Patrick T. Conley, 1 Bristol Point Road. He's requesting that his petition be withdrawn. That's item F4.
Lou, what action do we need on that, please?
You can just receive and file.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive and file F4. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, now we're back on track. First item in the ordinance section is Ordinance 2016-01, and I believe the solicitor will provide something on this one. This is the second reading for adoption of this particular ordinance, which deals with the tax exemption for renewable energy systems.
I'm going to ask that you continue this to the March 30th meeting. We want to work in some language about net metering. So in other words, the purpose of this ordinance is so that individuals who are going to be using renewable power for their homes are able to do so tax-free. On the other hand, if there are individuals who are out there who are actually using it to sell, we probably want to treat that a little differently. So we're coming up with some language, so I'd request that you just continue this to March 30th.
Spectacular. Is there a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I wonder if I could ask the solicitor a couple of questions.
Sure.
Has there been a good estimate made of the likely cost of this action per year?
Well, right now, I don't believe we're actually taxing renewable energy sources. I could be wrong. I don't think we are. Well, I don't know of any town that really is. There's a state law that allows you not to do it so that you can encourage people to invest in a solar system on their roof, knowing that they're not going to have to pay tangible taxes on it. Obviously, they pay the real estate taxes, but they
So is it then fair to assume there'd be very little immediate effect on our budget, but that perhaps gradually we would be
little to
allowing
none.
more and more
Yeah.
of it, and it wouldn't feel that particularly?
Right. I think little to none, but what we don't want to have happen is for someone or some small business or whatever to do this and be making money off of it. Then it's no longer being tax exempt for the purpose that we designed this for, which is to encourage people to have renewable energy sources.
Yeah, we want to make sure it has a good effect without having any corruption.
There we go.
I think that the administration probably needs to set up a good system to keep track of these allowances, maybe on an annual basis, or because
You do have to apply. You have to apply to the tax assessor by March 30th in order to get this. So
you have to apply every year. Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing, because supposing one starts and then it's abandoned, we don't want to keep rewarding. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next item is Ordinance 2016-03. This is an ordinance which would allow, this is something that the council did speak about in previous years. This would create an ordinance that would govern the alcohol use and sale on town property. This is the first reading.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion this constitutes the first reading. Also in consideration for the second reading, after talking with the Chief of Police, there's further recommendations from his department in comparison to other municipalities in conjunction with this topic. This is an important topic that was discussed by administration and my colleagues for town use property with alcohol on it, with nonprofits and town agencies and entities. Also in discussions in the past with the solicitor, myself, and Chairman Calero with the trust. We might want a representative from the trust to be on hand for questionings to convey to the public because we know the importance of this and we want to do it right and address all the needs. So that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is to pass, is that, excuse me, just to clarify, your motion is to pass this as a first reading and then to do all that? Wouldn't it be better to put it off as a first reading until all that is done?
Well, either way, I look at it this way. I look at it as the information that's going to be forwarded to us for the second reading. It would be the same way as us continuing this, getting the information. We might have less continuance if it's in the same manner, meaning that if we continue this, we're going to have another first reading, we're going to get the same information we're going to get for the second reading, and then we would have to have a second reading, versus we might all come to a consensus with that information, have the second reading, and then have its passage at the next meeting. But if you prefer another meeting that if you feel more comfortable, then I will continue the first reading.
Well, no, I would just like to see what the changes might be. I mean, if they're just minor changes, then you could make a decision right then and there. But if they're going to be extensive changes, then you might have to put the second reading off. I mean, either way.
Either way, it would be put off anyways, is what I'm saying. But with this way, we might not have another meeting on it. So it's up to you. I'm just saying he has further recommendations in comparisons to other municipalities. I think it's to do with application processes, and also as far as the trust, it's more so of just to answer questions. But basically, what's in front of this council that our solicitor put forward is just basic stuff that's pretty much been on the books, but and addresses the needs. But we just want to be cautious going forward. But certainly, Councilwoman, if you feel, please, I would.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I can just abstain. I have very mixed feelings about going forward at all with this. So.
Okay.
You know.
Did you second?
I did. I seconded, and
Is there
obviously, just that, when we come up with the second reading, whatever changes coming forward, we have time to discuss those at that point.
And you can
then we
continue a
if
second
we
reading, just like you can
second
continue a
reading, so
first reading. But if everything is okay with all of us, then you would pass the second reading.
And there's actually benefit for going to a second reading, because first reading, we can't really discuss it. So second reading will open it up, allow for public hearing, and then afterwards, clear discussion. And if there is concerns that need to be addressed, then certainly I think we should continue it. So I think it hits both positives. So we have a motion and a second for first reading. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, but I'm just abstaining because I understand it's just a first reading, I understand the whole thing, this whole thing worries me, so.
Okay, the next item is item C3. This is ordinance 2016-04. This is an amendment to the town code which would allow for certain new conditions for Class BV intoxicating beverage licenses. This is the first reading.
Is there a motion for a first reading?
Make a motion that this constitutes the first reading, but I'll wait for a second for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll second for discussion.
So there's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Section C, and I would like the solicitor's input on this. Under C, it says, "No alcohol shall be served to or consumed by standing patrons." We revised these ordinance because just the reality of what exists out there in our restaurant business and whatnot. And all restaurant owners and business owners know the capacity of their business and know how many people belong there. Sometimes there is standing room, I know, and maybe it's just me, but if you go take takeout or if you just meet somebody and you're waiting for a table, you're standing. And maybe I'm just all by myself here, but usually someone will say, "Would you care for a drink while you're waiting until your table is ready?" I don't know. I would just like to open for discussion. I believe this happens pretty much in every restaurant, whether it's Bristol, Warren, Providence. I think this goes on. So I was just wondering to the solicitor, what are the concerns if you did strike that from this?
I don't want to go too deep in because, again, it's first reading on it, so I think it's an appropriate question to ask, and I think we should certainly consider it as part of our second reading discussion when the council talks to it. But if you could address that.
It's really a policy issue.
Okay.
It's nothing more. It's not a legal issue. It's a policy issue.
Okay.
And you can certainly vote to strike it during second reading. There's nothing magical about it being there or not being there.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just that, I read through it. I do feel like it's a little restrictive, and I feel that, honestly, I'd like to, what my colleagues to think about is that we should strike the stool, the number of seatings, and also the dollars by sales. I think this ordinance, in a way, we should assume that the restaurants are serving alcohol responsibly, and we have the power here to, if there is a problem, the chief of police would call us, and we would take, immediate action. I just feel like we want to make sure we're encouraging and we're competitive with the neighboring towns, and I just feel like there's a lot of legalities, and I just don't think it needs to be as strong as it is here. That's all.
Okay.
I thought the percentage of sales, I thought that was is that a state law?
It's not a state law. However, a lot of towns do have these percentages in their ordinances.
I think there's important.
But it is definitely not a state law.
I think that's an important piece. To keep, because that's the difference of a restaurant serving liquor or a bar serving, microwavable food. That is a huge, big difference.
Yes, there is.
So let's put that as part of the second reading, that we've certainly discussed that part of it, what it looks like removed and what it looks like keeping it in.
Sure.
Anything else? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item D1. This is the petition of Albert Quito, who is requesting council consideration for expansion of the premises where alcoholic beverages can be sold and served at his restaurant. This would be to call for a public hearing at the next meeting of March 30th.
Make a motion, this constitutes for a public hearing to be held March 30th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I would just like to say that I think it would be desirable for us to get more information on this prior to the public hearing, so that we understand not only the intention, but precisely what you're going to do and what space. And could you give us a map of it as well, just so that we're well prepared for the public hearing?
And we don't, Mr. Quito, we don't want to discuss anything at this point because we have to wait for the public hearing on that. But I do agree with Councilman Herreshoff that we certainly would want more information than we currently have. And I think the appropriate way to do it would be to work through Diane Williamson, our Community Development Director, and she can walk you through what would be necessary for that public hearing. And then also, obviously, the town clerk.
Okay, so prior to that, I'll get the information, meet with her, and then we'll present at the March 30th.
Yes, please.
So could I just ask a quick question, though? Is this, so you own this property that looks like it's part of Independence Park, is that it? No? Is that the area? I mean, sort of?
Not at all.
So, again, I don't want to
So we'd have
shut
to
down
go down
conversation,
and see
but by
what
the
would
same
be
token, I want to make sure that we do this correctly with the public hearing. So you heard the councilwoman's question. Make sure we address that at the March 30th meeting, please.
I think you'll be fine with about
Please.
the 30th.
So would there be some way to either, obviously we could go down and look at it, or if some, like, little mark that could go on, that if we go down and no one's open, we could just see how far out this is going to go?
Do you want to know the limits on
Sure, yes,
or the area that you'd like to expand?
sure, yes.
I think it would be pertinent from the Community Development Office that if there's ongoing discussions and there's a request on your part to do something like this, that one comes before the other, because we don't need any headaches after. No, no offense. But
You did finish the survey, which I can share with the council, and then I can work with Mr. Quito to mark it off out there.
Well, one thing I would just say, and I don't know, because I don't know that much about this project until I just read this in the docket, but if we're going to be potentially giving up some of or coming to an agreement, it might be worthwhile, like, before, we'll be starting our budget hearings pretty soon, so we'll be here every day, every evening. It might be worthwhile to meet down there for a few minutes before we come here and see that all drawn out and laid out for us and explained. Maybe the night that your department is on, Diane, we could do something like that, or if you're going to be here another night, I don't know if the council, my colleagues would agree to that, but if we could spend like 10, 15 minutes down there, I think that would be very helpful to see this.
I did meet with Mr. Quito. He is open to all suggestions. He was very open to work with however needs of the council and the administration.
What the council has in front of it is a basic diagram of the suggested changes. So the council's looking for, as we've just talked about, much more clarity so we can make an informed decision. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item E1. This is a 60-day review of the dancing and entertainment license for the Dirty Water Pub. You have recommendations provided by the fire chief, police chief, and town administrator.
I would move that this, on the advice of police and fire, be extended to the normal period in consequence of a good activity there so far.
Yeah, good activity. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the tattoo license renewal, and the recommendation provided by the town administrator and chief of police.
May I guess on how Halsey will be voting on this particular
Mr. Chairman, I'm definitely going to vote no. I hate tattoos, whether I see them in the airport or gym or any place else. I don't think it's wise to desecrate the body that God gives you.
I feel like that was a softball pitch that you hit out of the park there, sir. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the license renewal for 2016-2017 based on the recommendations of the town administrator and chief of police.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
Similarly, you have the cesspool license renewals for 2016-17 with a recommendation provided by the town administrator and the water pollution control superintendent.
Upon all recommendations and laws and ordinances, and of course, Lou, even with the other one, I noticed the application process and contingent upon the application is being submitted to the town clerk's office. And we can't say it enough that when you have this obligation every year to come to our town clerk to make sure that we have the proper applications for any license that you're given here in the town of Bristol. So I make a motion that we grant them.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item F1. This is the petition of Robert Vanderhoof for council consideration of changing the policy to allow dancing and entertainment licenses to be effective on Sundays from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. You have recommendation provided by the town administrator, chief of police, and the fire chief.
Is Mr. Vanderhoof here? No?
This is like a policy change as opposed to, we've granted these for X number of weekends in the summer, correct? So X number of Sundays, of special events, we've granted them individually, am I right?
What we've done before me, okay, is that entertainment licenses in general were for not to exclude Sundays.
Right.
And that any time someone wished to have entertainment on a Sunday,
Right.
they would have to come forward with a specific date and usually provide the council with an outline of what they plan to do on those dates. And that's what the council has approved.
So what that's what I'm asking, like, so why wouldn't we just continue that policy? Because that's happened many, many times where there has been, some special event or two, X number of Sundays that, during the summer months that this place and that place wants to have, entertainment, and we've granted it rather than change the whole policy that just gives a wide open blanket. I mean, I'm just asking the question, that's all.
I agree with Mary. I think if we granted this to one party, it would open Pandora's box, and
Well, the whole
I think
policy
our
would be
present
changed.
policy
Everything
should
would
be
that.
maintained.
I spoke to this applicant and asked why a change on this, and what he told me was that this is for jazz. He wants to have jazz on Sunday afternoons, and as opposed to asking for one-day entertainment license X amount of times, he was looking for consistency on this. I shared my concern, and I think I speak for my colleagues on this one, that Sunday was kind of, I guess it goes back to blue laws, where it was always that day of quiet that I know a lot of people look forward to. I know I do. And he assured me that this was jazz music that you would not be able to hear if you were not inside or darn close to the front door. So I was okay with that when I heard that. And I also reached out to the solicitor, and please, if you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, our license allows for this. Just our policy does not. And there's nothing wrong with our policy. It's just our policy has not allowed. So we're not changing our licensing. We're just changing our policy on this if we decided that we wanted to do this. So I felt it was appropriate. I am also as concerned as you are that acoustic music doesn't necessarily mean quiet music, because you can turn an acoustic guitar into a very loud instrument plugging it into big speakers. So that doesn't make it quiet.
I'm not opposed to this.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either.
Right.
So.
I'm not opposed to him having jazz on Sundays. I'm opposed to potentially opposed to changing the whole policy. That's my issue.
Are we generally changing the whole policy, or is this a case-by-case by any applicant that has to come before this council to ask for that license on Sunday?
I think the issue would be this, that if you granted this one for the year, you'd be very hard-pressed to tell someone else they can't have it for a year. So one option is to
90 days
to do it for 90, 120 days, and quarterly have a new application come in that gives you a little more control.
It's an excellent idea.
Well, I'm in support. I think the light jazz, although I think it adds a nice atmosphere to the town and really makes the town a thriving place to come and eat and enjoy. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Sunday dancing and entertainment license from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. based on the recommendations of the town administrator, chief of police, and the fire chief.
Would you be amenable to a 90 or 120-day review on that?
120-day review.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah, my discussion is, what are we doing here? Are we granting a limited, which I don't think we are, because it's a review. We didn't say that it's a new license, right, that they'd have to come in for. Are we changing our policy with very little discussion to have dancing and entertainment between 11 and 6 in every establishment that wants it, which it sounds like that's what we're doing, basically? Or are we granting this one applicant the opportunity to do this through the summer months? Because I think it's the first that I mentioned. I think it's a policy change. Would it be a de facto policy change? Because I'm opposed to a policy change without any review, discussion, or input from anybody else.
I think I and my colleagues agree with you, and I would say, and you can chime in, Michael, 120-day would be in comparison to the same person come and say, I want a one-day.
Right.
We just had a discussion, it's not a yearly thing, so I agree with your concerns, but basically, we're just adding another 119 days. That doesn't mean it's changing the policy.
That's right, Ed.
What I'm understanding.
Yeah, I think you have, and maybe Lou can even answer this, you've probably granted Sunday entertainment licenses for extended periods of time, at least through the summer.
Not really.
Maybe like July and August. I mean,
They were more specific to, because we even have the only petition we have is for one day. Okay. But I would say that if you're saying you're going to review it after 120 days, that means that you're granting the license for the whole year, and that's a place that you would check it.
Right.
You know, if you're going to create a 120-day license, which would expire at the end of the 120 days, that's a different thing.
And then they'd have to reapply. They'd have to reapply at that point.
You know, case in point, you had the one in E1. Okay, you had a 60-day review on a one-year license. Okay, because that is a one-year license. That's what you said, you want to have a 60-day review.
Right.
But if the intention is to have a shorter-term license, then I think you're going to have to word your motion a little bit differently, and to say that you would be basically having a license to exist for 120 days with a definite date of expiration.
So moved.
So you've changed it to a 120-day license?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I think...
Before we get that, if you would, and certainly you will. Is there a second?
With the expiration date, all that the town clerk has said, right, Lou?
Well, we would say it would expire 120 days from today.
So wouldn't you then
Before we go any further, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
But wouldn't it, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, because 120 days is, I mean, if, my guess is people want this probably like, they might want it all year, which is maybe something that they want to do. They're going to have brunch on Sunday, whatever the case may be. Or a lot of them that have come in the past for multiple days have been, you know, like, for example, Guillory's would have multiple days where they were doing a fundraiser for this one and a fundraiser for that one, and they might have, like, every Sunday in the month of July, whatever the case may be. I think the issue is, if people are looking for this to do from, say, April or May to October, when there's a lot of people coming in, I mean, I think that if you're going to have a 120-day new license, we're just creating a license out of a whim, out of an idea, then you should have, like, what that is. Are you going to have, like, a 120-day license that goes from January 1st to a certain time, and then another one that starts at this time to another time, or are they just going to be rolling as the applicants come in?
I hear my colleagues' concerns. So the Elks, I believe last year, submitted to this council multiple dates of every Sunday in the summer. So would you feel more comfortable if the request was, like you said, a time frame, and then have those specific Sunday dates in that window that he's asking for, because each day would be a one-day
Well, that's what we always do. That's what we
It'd be
always do.
every
Rather than
Sunday
change the whole
instead of
policy.
the wording
because-
of 120-day granting of
Because
the
what we're
license.
changing is a whole policy without any discussion. I mean, our little discussion, but not like, who knows who's out there who didn't realize this is a changing of the entire policy. I mean,
So
I've never actually voted against those requests that have come in. I just think that this is different than that request. I mean, if it's a 120-day license, then let's say what that time frame is. Or is it rolling? Like, what are the details on this?
So Councilman Sweeney, maybe we can reach out to the applicant, and maybe in the form of that request to explain on how he submits those dates in comparison to change it from that procedure, instead of asking for what this council has been vocal today about 120-day, submit it that way, and then we could go from there. Obviously, there's concerns, and then in that meantime, our applicant can go forward with this, and we can have a discussion about the policy itself.
Right, that's what I think we need to do. I mean, I'm one vote. I mean, whatever the rest of the council decides to do, but I feel like we should at least be clear what we're doing. Like, be clear that we are now granting a Sunday dancing and entertainment license available to every establishment that comes in for it, for either 120 days or for the whole year. Let's just be clear what it is.
Right, and if my understanding, it's a case-by-case basis. I mean, we're going to look at each license, case by
Well, that's
case,
true, but you still have a policy
and that we would,
change.
based on their reputation and they're good with the chief of police, they've an upstanding business model, then I don't see why we would have to deny them an entertainment license. It doesn't hurt to try, you know what I mean?
But I mean,
to try this.
The
But if-
question is, all I'm asking is to be clear on what your policy change is. I mean, it's like, you can't just have, like, you either have a policy or you don't. And if you have one, and we're going to change it, let's be clear that that's what we're doing. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying yes or no, I agree or disagree. I mean, are we changing a policy so that we now open up a dancing and entertainment license for every establishment that wants one? Yes, they'll have to come in and petition for it, but it's hard to say no if that's what the policy is. That's all I'm asking. Is it a policy change or isn't it? That's all I want to know. Because it sounds like it is, but when you go through this, it just looks like they're looking for, like, we've done it by the days. So we want to create a new category of licenses that are 120 days, 90 days, summer, whatever the case may be? Or are we just saying, we want to change the policy, anybody can come in for it, and then we'll make a judgment on their business?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
That's all I'm asking is clarity on that.
Understand.
Just to state that position a little bit differently, I'm uncomfortable with this. We're dealing with a seemingly very responsible petitioner, but one who is in a very prominent position right near the center of town. But my problem is that, as Mary has said, this, if passed, would really be a de facto change of policy. Because why wouldn't every other restaurant or establishment come in and ask for exactly the same thing? So I think it's really irresponsible to impulsively okay this one request, not because it's necessarily in its own basis going to hurt the town, but because of the de facto change of policy that would seem to result from the passage of it. I think that the one-day arrangement has worked well in the past, and I wouldn't want to see it extended to much more than one day. 120 days would be the months of April, May, June, and July. That's a lot.
So I would ask my colleagues once again that if the petitioner submitted this with the exact dates from starting, say, next Sunday for 5 months, which would roughly be about 120 days, 5 months, give or take?
4 months.
4 months. With the specific Sunday dates and concurrent every week, would that be more amenable? Would that be more amenable?
So, to say it another way.
No, I don't think I'm objecting to this as a matter of semantics. I'm objecting to it by the broad brush approach, which I think we would see followed by dozens of requests of the same nature, which would be very hard for us to deny, because we've got to treat everybody the same.
I mean, even if it came in with the dates, and the dates were 52 Sundays in a year, it's still a year. It's still policy change, isn't it? Like, it's still de facto, like, it's every day, it's every week. I mean, so then you've just created this new policy. So I just think you need to be clear, is that the policy? Like, we are changing our policy that we allow this, or we don't. And if not, is there a new classification that says, during the summer months, a lot of these places want to have such and such things?
Mr.
Can we
Chairman,
do
might I ask the police chief and the administrator to give us their views on this matter?
They had asked that the police department look into it. That's why I'm giving you the memo that I did. We haven't had a problem with the Sunday license at all. As far as the policy change, it doesn't make a difference to me. I think it's less paperwork if you don't have it come to you every single time they're doing it, especially if it's a business like this that's going to continue to do that. I know what Mary's saying, but those are unforeseeable events that come up with, whether it's she's saying Gilreys, Mary, but now it's Dirty Water or Elks or whatever. My understanding is this gentleman wants to have this on a Sunday from now until, let's say, the end of the year. We monitor it. If there's a complaint, we address it. And if it's of that much seriousness, it ends up on that table and you get to review it, and collectively we issue what we need to do with this party that's asking for a license. So as far as the police department, it doesn't make a difference.
So, Chief, though, and I don't think anybody has an objection with this particular location.
Right.
But if this creates a policy change, that everybody is able to come in for this, and we would be hard-pressed to deny it. Everybody who has a liquor license, for example, comes in and wants this, that's going to impact, I would imagine, your department. If
Yes and no.
Most of the places.
As you know, if there's a problem, we're going to address it quick and swift. I don't see why, like you said, if the Elks wants it for the next 6 months, as Tim said, for 120 days, you're going to give it to them, and we're going to monitor it. If there's an issue, I guarantee you that following council meeting, you're going to have a memo in front of you that says, on Sunday, there was a loud noise complaint. We went down and, we asked them to shut it down, and there was a problem, whatever. Usually, if they're compliant, you really don't need to hear about it unless you call me or if there's reason for conversation. 99% of the time, I have to say, our businesses are very compliant in this community, whether it's a liquor establishment or a restaurant. We don't have those problems. That's what we're trying to do, is eliminate people from creating problems for us.
Well, we've never given anybody 6 months. What we've granted in the past on Sundays has always been, I don't think there's been more than 5 or 6 or 7, maybe July, the first 2 weeks of August or something like. I don't think there's been more than that on a list like that. Lou would have to go back. So I don't think anybody's had it straight through for 6 months. Nobody's come in for that.
I don't recall it either.
They usually come in the summer for some special activity, then maybe 1 or 2 in the fall. So I don't think, I would venture to say there's no more than 8 on any of them, and probably less. We'd have to go through the and look it up. But
so in a case by case, as I think Tim said, I think it's probably the best formula to have out there, because if there is a place that we have concerns, then I don't see us issuing them 120 days.
Exactly.
We just issue them for 2 weeks or a month. But again, that's your policy change. Whatever you forward to me, I assure you it will be enforced, and I'll bring it to you the second I feel it needs to be addressed to the next level.
I'd like to see us put this off to the next meeting, and I'd like to see whoever is supporting this to come in with what this is clearly written up. Is this a policy change, isn't it? Is there 120 days? Is it that we're going to just take it on a case-by-case basis? Because this is a one person who's asking for a year, essentially. And that changes it and opens it up to everybody. And now we can say no to people if they're irresponsible, whatever. But it makes it a little harder, I would say, if we've already granted a policy change. I don't know, Mike, am I right, or is that not? Or is that totally off the deep end?
So right now, the policy is a one-day deal. So this applicant has asked for the whole year. That's very different from what you're doing right now. I do think, even as the chief said, that you can take each case on a case-by-case basis. But I also agree that once you do it for one, if others come in and there's no reason to deny because there have been no problems or no complaints, etc., you will be very hard-pressed to say no. But that's true of any license that you give.
So let's do this. And certainly, sir, I'm going to recognize you just a moment.
Our next meeting is the 30th. The one after that is the 13th. That is April 13th. Tim, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on this, but the applicant is asking for X amount of time. I would prefer not to wait to give it to him. He's been a good neighbor and has had no issues. By the recommendation of the chief and the administrator, and all of us, honestly, no one has objections to this particular applicant. So if, Tim, you're amenable to changing your motion, maybe we can grant him the Sundays through the 10th, that would be April 10th, and then review it at the 13th council meeting and come up with, to address Mary's questions about is this a policy change, but also grant these licenses to this applicant so they can use Sundays moving forward, but not so much that we're changing a policy.
I'm amenable, so moved.
Okay. Second.
Okay, so discussion, and this gentleman I'd like to give him a moment, but right after Councilman Stewart shares his thought.
Just so Councilwoman Perrella is saying that in front of us is a one-day Sunday dancing and entertainment license. Her concern is, are we creating a new license instead of the one-day, is her concern, and that would be for the next council meeting that we can have that furbished information going forward for your concerns and for the public and the rest going forward.
A new policy
Yeah.
or creating a new category of licenses.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Right now, this is about 4 weeks between now and April 10th.
Okay.
So, my name is Ralph, and I'm from the Dirty Water Pub.
Could you state your full name, please, for the record?
Ralph Reisner from the Dirty Water Pub.
Welcome.
General manager. And the reason why I stepped up was the subject is a subject that I have also encountered recently, and there seems to be a demand for that kind of blues, jazz music on a Sunday. And from what I've gathered and from all the bands I work with doing bookings and stuff, the biggest problem I think it is the restaurant might face is to book these bands at a price where it's reasonable enough to have them play. They want to secure multiple dates, or consecutive Sundays. And so that's one challenge. And, I mean, the rest of the discussion you folks had really answered a lot of the questions I had. And and I think that's just, one thing that I would like to say on the restaurant's behalf is, when it comes to the Sunday, and the demand for this music has, I've seen a lot of demand for this type of thing with the blues and jazz from local residents. Not the younger crowd's not going to be out on Sunday afternoon looking to enjoy this music. Like it's kind of like, not like a concert type format with dancing and stuff like that, but people come in, they usually would be sitting down, relax, I think is what they're looking to do.
Right.
And so that's just a couple other aspects of it, I mean, so again, I think it's with the policy and how the verbiage goes is like, maybe entertainment and dancing is so broad as to someone might have like a live DJ and a couple hundred people come down to their establishment, and that could create or disturb the peace on, what had been Sunday. So maybe there's a way to, put the verbiage across where it's more of a ambiance type setting and, But I do see that it would be a benefit to I do see, and I've heard a lot of local residents welcoming, they do this in Newport and other surrounding towns, and it's becoming popular to have like a themed Sunday and just kind of have the band playing in the background.
I agree with you, and I think we're all, again, I hope I speak for everyone here, is that we don't want to hear, as much as I enjoy all of this music, I don't want to hear it when I walk out the door. I want it to be quiet on that, and that's very important. So you're going to hear it a little bit, but I don't want it to intrude past X feet.
I think one of the downsides, and I've asked over the years the solicitor to address this, and obviously there's no solution to it because I believe state law, but dancing and entertainment is dancing and entertainment. It's one license, and I think a lot of the problems that we have either potentially, or if you look up issues that over the years that Federal Hill or other places have had, it's because it's the same license. Whether you want like one little guitarist or a harpist, if you want a harpist playing in the background at your Sunday brunch, it's the same license as if you want to have a club environment and a wet t-shirt contest. Do you know what I'm saying?
So
it's exactly the same license, and there's no way to divide that up, and that creates a problem. So then we have to just put the restrictions, I think, on whatever you say you're going to do. Like if you say you're going to do X, and that's what you're going to have to be held to. I think we can put the restrictions on that. Am I right?
No. Because what always happened with the one-day license is that the petitioner was specific as to what the entertainment would be.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. We appreciate
Thank you very
it. So we have a motion and a second, and that motion is to grant, I believe, if I'm correct, 4 one-day Sunday licenses, which would include this Sunday coming through the 10th, and then to review this again, this particular license again, or this application, I suppose,
Correct, yeah.
on our meeting of the 13th. That motion also included to come up with a discussion about policy, is it policy, on our March 30th meeting. So that is the synopsis of the motion.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the second reading for adoption of the request for an accessible parking space in the vicinity of 30 Bayview Avenue. You have a recommendation of the Town Administrative Chief of Police to approve.
Upon all recommendations, I move that we grant the approval of the request of the accessible parking space in front of 30 Bayview Avenue.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And you have as item F3 a request for removal of an accessible parking space in the vicinity of 90 Union Street with a similar recommendation.
I move that we accept that kind request with gratitude so that we don't continue having these when they're not needed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I concur with Councilman Herreshoff. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. When it's appropriate to grant one, as you can see, we will. And when we need to remove it, we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item F5, memorandum from my office regarding another request for removal of a accessible parking space in the vicinity of 25 Roma Street. This is the first reading.
Same motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the Public Service Appointment section. You have the North and East Burial Grounds Commission with term to expire in January 2021. You have the application of James F. Riccio, 56 Franklin Street, currently serving. Request council consideration for reappointment.
Make a motion for reappointment of James Riccio to the North and Eastern Burial Grounds Commission with the expiration of 2020.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next one is the Bristol County Water Authority Board of Directors for one position with term to expire in February of 2019. You have the application of Georgina McDonald, 180 Ferry Road, who seeks reappointment. Ms. McDonald currently serves in position.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve, reappoint Gina McDonald to the Bristol County Water Authority Board of Directors.
Second, and also thank Ms. McDonald. She's been very vocal as one of our directors. We constantly are on the BCWA and their restructuring and their capital plan going forward, especially with the East Providence pipeline. So we would like to thank her and wish her well on her reappointment.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
In the Recreation Board, two positions, both with term to expire in February of 2019. You have the application of Carl Antonovich and N. Diane Davis, both currently serving, both seeking reappointment.
Make a reappointment of Carl Antonovich and Diane Davis to the Recreation Board with terms to expire as the town clerk stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Before we go any farther, just as Halsey is very consistent in voting against tattoo parlors, I'm always very consistent in thanking everybody on our boards and commissions for the time, efforts, and energy they give to make Bristol a better place. We say thank you.
Next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item H1. This is from the Treasurer providing a report on the Maritime Center. This was continued from February 10th, and she provides a new update.
Julie.
So I've given you various updates over the last few months as we've been progressing with our project here. And so this one should look fairly similar, as the budget has not changed substantially, and we continue to be pleased with the progress. We're, as I have discussed before, we're trying our best to get as much of the exterior work done within the budget allowed or available under the grant. Jury's still out on how much that will be because we're waiting for the weather to break, and we're trying to ensure that the vast majority of all of the interior work is done so that there are no surprises as we go down the road. We don't want to obligate any of our contingency funds without being further along on the interior. So.
Councilman Herreshoff and I, on behalf of the council, went down, took a look at where it was. This is going back, gosh, a couple months now, I think, is how long it's been since that time. Some of the work is certainly moving quite well along. The new bathrooms look wonderful. Just to remind everybody, this council voted to support this for a multitude of reasons, including but not limited to allowing us to expand the harbor and the waterfront, which is a revenue source for the town. It's also an enjoyment source for the town.
So, Julie, just for the sake of exactness, if all proceeds is now authorized, what will be the total expenditure of the town of Bristol on the project?
I suppose if we cut everything off, all of the expenses are known, we don't do any further work other than what's already been approved on the exterior, we'd be at approximately 1.654. So it's really, if you look at the budget sheet I gave you, that contingency available of about $98,000, $99,000, that's the money we're holding aside for the
But my question is really a little different.
Okay.
I want to know how much has come right out of our treasury, because part of that, quite a bit of that 1.6 is a grant.
Yes, so that's about $860,000. That's the town's portion.
Okay, so we started out planning on spending $800,000 as we got the word about the $800,000 grant. So I'm very hopeful we don't exceed that more than the current about 10%. I think we should not authorize anything more, even though by so doing we may be denying our advantage of efficiency by current mobilization. I just think we've got to now finish this and stop.
What we'd like to do is, and what we talked about as the CPC, is to, once we have a better sense of how much we have still left in our contingency as the spring breaks and we continue the weather on the exterior, we'd like to talk with the structural engineer, you met him, John Watney, and just see if there's can we change the scope of the work so that we're still getting some of it done, but maybe not the $100,000 level that he was talking about. Is there a $70,000 level or $60,000 level where we get, some of the cracks or some of the more areas of concern taken care of? So those discussions will still be had, and we'll definitely inform you as we're...
Well, also, while you're doing that, I would urge you to remind them of the promise to gratis do the south wing.
That's come up a couple of times.
We expect that to be done, following up on the promise that was given to the chairman and myself.
And we will be following up.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
Julie, all the walls, so just tell me, so we have the north facade, is that complete?
Yes, so if you're looking at the building if you're facing the front door, it's simple, all of the problem areas, we hit, you could go, never ending in every little crack and crevice, but the areas that were of concern, we've taken care of that whole side of the building. We've also wrapped around the corner facing the
west.
harbor.
Yeah.
And we've gotten a portion of that done. The area that's
And that's where the scaffolding is up right now,
yes,
correct?
Exactly. And the area that we're really hoping to continue with is where you go up to the tower. There's some cracking in that section of the building. So we're hoping that we'll be able to continue around and get some of that work done, but that's where we're sort of holding back just to make sure that we don't run ourselves into trouble with the budget. So we're waiting to see,
Well, I appreciate you guys watching the budget and trying to stay right on it.
Yeah, because of the weather and because of the way things are progressing, it's not affecting our timeline.
But, Julie, it seems to me that we've got to be cognizant of the fact that you might have a little time problem here, because supposing they get near the end of the job and they come to you and say, well, for X we can do this more, how are you going to time that with decision-making by the council in a way that doesn't add more money by the contractor hanging around a while?
We would not approve anything over and above what the council has already agreed
We've
to with
already
the grant.
authorized.
But
Right,
you may
we've
need
already
some
obligated.
quick communication with us about whether or
yeah.
not we agree to it.
Yes, that'll, and we'll, like I said, we'll just keep informing you as we're getting closer along the way, and none of that will affect the interior, so we'll be able to have the facility open and do whatever exterior work.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
So what I'm hearing is that we may wait on that west area of the wall, but the rest of the foundation is good to go.
Yeah.
It's because we want to stay in budget.
Yep.
So take me down the two paths. If we go ahead and we just repair it, and we just get it done, and scaffolding's up, costs, and instead of paying twice and everything, would it cost more to have that done later, or is it, I'm just trying to weigh out, is it more cost effective to save
money by doing
money?
it now? It
Right.
doesn't seem like it. It's a little
Okay.
surprising, but it doesn't, have you gotten that impression? I think it's the same either way. So we...
The mobilization that we would pay, so I think you have to weigh that against
Yeah.
how much the rest of it costs.
I'm sorry, Diane.
I'm sorry. I said, just in following up what Julie was saying, I think there will be some mobilization costs to get, if the scaffolding leaves and then it comes back, things like that.
Right. I'm just weighing out both scenarios. Do we save anything by, waiting?
I agree with that, but in my experience, you don't want contractors hanging around after the job's done, because every day they hang around, they seem to come up with an excuse for more money. So we want to get this done and get them out of here.
Yep.
And just so I'm clear, and the CPC is clear, as far as how the council's feeling about it, are we correct in the way that we're proceeding, in that we'll get as much as we can get done within the budget that we have right now? The council is not interested in doing anything over and above that. Is that a fair statement? If they tell us it's going to cost, you'll be $30,000 over budget, but you'll get that wall done, should we come back to you at that point and let you know that, so that
I
the
think you
council
should come
can then...
back to us, but I don't know that we're very inclined towards it.
Okay, I just want to be clear that we're all on the...
You came in front of us from the beginning with that structural problem. Remember the special meeting? So,
But now that we're getting towards the end, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that I'm,
You'll excuse my smile because, as you know, I didn't vote for the additional monies that were spent. But I think it's crazy for us not to hear a proposal that is put in front of us that is a cost-saving measure and penny-wise, dollar-foolish, if you will. So yes,
We'll keep you
bring it in
informed.
front of us.
Okay.
So from looking at what you're sharing with us, we're hoping to be open in May. When is it appropriate for you to be in front of us again or share an update on this? We have a May 13th meeting. You think that's
Maybe
too
probably
early?
the April meeting, and then certainly I'll add something to your agenda for the next meeting if there's something else to share. But if you want to put, just to make sure it comes back up, we could go for the first
Yeah, if we
meeting in
could
April.
continue this to the April 13th meeting, so we can get another update at that point. We have a motion. Is there a second?
We have a late March meeting.
We have a March 30th meeting. I was thinking that we needed enough time to go by because of the exterior work being able to be done as it gets a little bit warmer.
I wonder, Mr. Chairman, if we maybe should continue it to both those meetings so that we're sure of keeping abreast of it. March 30 and April 13th.
So we'll just move it to the March 30th meeting.
Can we just...
I'll second that motion.
Just one at a time, because if there's no need to do the other one, the motion will be there and someone might be looking for it. So I say just the one at a time.
So we have a motion to continue it to March 30th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for the update.
Thank you guys for your hard work on the budget, and keeping it in on top of it. It's really...
Well, it's definitely a joint effort, and as I've said to you before, but I'll say it again, this CPC has been excellent to work with. They bring so much knowledge, and they're really active participants, and they've been great. So we're excited to continue to work with them on other capital projects.
And we are on to our next agenda item, but I think it's very important to share two things. One, CPC is Capital Projects Commission, which is regular folks watching out to make sure that things are being spent correctly. I use that term loosely because they're intelligent in helping us volunteers. Yes, thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item H2. This is continued from November 4th. Councilman Stewart requested an update on the Tanyard Brook project.
I was just mentioning that there is a member here from the Capital Commission, Don Heeman, is in the audience. No, just to acknowledge him. I know you were thanking everybody, all the regular folks here, so here is one of those.
Thank you for sharing that.
I didn't understand. I thought it was to do with this.
I'm sorry. Communication.
It's just the timing of it.
Yes.
So this is your part of the show, sir?
It is?
Yes, it is.
Back up to bat, okay. Actually, this is on the Tanya Brook.
Yes.
We currently have met with 29 out of the 37 residents. We have 8 more to go, and I can tell you it has been quite a task through registered letters, phone calls. It hasn't been easy to try to reach some of these folks because some of them are not residents, they just property owners.
Could you please remind everyone, I know the council knows, but could you remind everyone what you're meeting them for?
Yes. The reason why we're meeting with all the residents that about the culvert or the Tanya Brook is that we can, to inventory their property, 2, to get construction easement agreement with them, so when we begin the construction, we'll be able to access their property or access the culvert through their properties in order to get the work done, the construction work done.
When do you hope to start the construction?
Well, at this point, we're probably looking at 2018.
When?
2018.
2018, yeah.
2018.
So let's back up.
Yes.
This is why we have these updates.
Now, do we have the funding available for it?
1 second, Halsey.
Okay.
Councilman Stewart was speaking.
I'm going to try to give you to the timeline, Halsey.
Yeah.
So, back from November, we postponed it to this. The permits were supposed to start going out this month. Is that going to happen?
We actually, some of these have gone out already. All the folks that we've met with, okay, we have sent the easement construction, okay, those have gone. Now, when you're talking about permitting, you're talking about...
Utility permits.
Those have not, because...
We just want to know how long this is, this council and my colleagues has stated, we want to keep a timeline on this. This has been ongoing, so whatever setbacks there are, this is where we want to be, informed, because I believe it was 29 out of 40, right? 40 residents that needed to go to the workshop in November?
No, we have just...
37?
37, yes,
Okay.
37, and we've met with 29 of those.
So, pending on the ones that are outstanding is holding up going forward with the utility permits.
Correct.
Because May and June was supposed to be the final design, I believe Halsey was wondering, after the final design, and then come the next November, I think, the bidding process was going to start.
Correct.
Going out for 2017, but we're here in 2018 because of the funding and the budget.
That's very true.
Okay. So do we know roughly when we should have another update in accordance with these residents and a timeline?
Let's shoot it for April 13th, because I know Cheryl has been trying to chase some of these folks down. Kevin and I have spoken and trying to lock in some dates to continue and finish off this process, interview and doing an assessment with the residents.
Okay.
Well, if I may say, I think the schedule's okay as long as it doesn't slip more than it has already. But I think we've got to go to work on this funding because it's a very, very expensive project and we need some help to get more funding. This is an item that should be federally funded in a larger extent than it so far is committed.
Well, I know I've heard the council, talking about bonding. Okay, that's one of the items, but also Diane and Jessica continue to procure any source of funding that may be available. So we have not given up on that. We're keeping an eye out to any resources that may be available.
I think it goes without saying we're going to actually need those because the amount of this project, we talk about budget in conjunction with all the other projects. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. And we usually do a good job. So we put our best foot forward. But okay, so should we continue this to the April?
I would say April 13th. It will be fine, and then I'll give you an update then.
Okay. Thank you.
1 second.
Thank you.
You want to make that motion to
Yes, we will continue for a further...
I'll second.
And you have discussion.
Tony, I just had a quick question in regards to Tanyard Brook. Councilman Stewart had asked a couple meetings ago, how is the Tanyard Brook Park beautifying project. How's that going? Is that moving forward at least?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The Daypon system who received the contract, who was aware of the contract, they should start work, I would say, anytime now. You know, things are pretty dried. You know, we've had a great, more than expected, early spring than expected, and the work should be started, I would say, probably within the next 2 weeks. You will see some work being done, and we would like to have that done. Well, not like to. The goal is to have it done before the 4th this year.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
Yes.
Good. I understand that part of the purchase was, the requirement of that purchase, the agreement of the purchase was that the previous owner of that land wanted to put a stone sign up. He actually called me about that, and I said that obviously as we progress through this, we'll make sure that it's got to go through you, but it's an appropriate sign, that it's in keeping with what's there, like Paul Park and such and so forth. So that's what I understand.
That is correct. Walter actually spoke with me about that, and he has to submit a design. I have not seen any sort of design at this point,
Okay.
but we certainly look forward to have something that would be appropriate for the area.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
A quick question, Tony.
Yes.
On the project itself, I mean, you know, I know they're looking for whatever grant opportunities and funding. Have you spoken with, like, our congressional delegation, like Senator Reed's office? I mean, you know, Chris or somebody that's very familiar with what we do, to see if there's some other money that, especially if it's not going to start till 2018, that we could access?
Yes, I have. I have spoken with both of them, actually, and what they said is, show me some numbers. You know, because at this point, I says, but they promise that they will keep us informed if anything, any opportunities come forward, and they actually are very good about that. I receive emails pretty regularly from both of them.
Good, okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to continue this to April 13th. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item I-2. This is correspondence from the Chairman of the Harbor Commission with the recommendation that the Council fund the Bristol Harbor Marina in the 2016-17 budget.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm Pat McCarthy. I'm a member of the Bristol Harbor Commission Advisory Committee and the Economic Development Commission. I act as liaison between the two boards. 4 Maple Shade Court is where I live. And I'd like to hand out, with your permission, 2 handouts this evening.
Of course.
Thank you.
How you doing, man? How are you? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, furthering on, in terms of full disclosure also, I want to make it known that I am a powerboat owner, number 1. Number 2, my name is also seen on the second attachment there, which is the dock wait list. The first handout is a letter of submittal of a development proposal back in 1982.
Can you just raise your mic?
How's that?
Thank you.
Is that okay? Back in 1982, some 35 years ago, and in that study for the waterfront redevelopment, it talks about the possible build of a marina in Bristol. So 35 years, plus or minus, this kind of discussion has gone on. If you look at the letter briefly, and I'll try to be brief given the hour, the letter has a key words in it that I'd like to point out before we go on to the second handout through that letter from Mr. Adelberg. Stimulus, development, momentum, direction, revitalization, all the kind of things we talk about today, we've talked about back in 1982. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that's how long the conversation has been with this potential marina development here in town. The second attachment is a wait list. The first part of that is the dock wait list, which comprises, has been up to 100 or more Bristol residents who have submitted their names to be on the wait list for potential dockage should it become available. And behind that attachment is also a public list of the current mooring wait list, which if you combine the two is a significant amount of people currently waiting for either moorings or dock space. If you have any questions about that, I'll just move on.
Just full disclosure, I haven't been here since 1982.
Really?
Neither have I, actually.
Halsey? No.
Now,
We'll be here all week. Thanks. Try the veal.
Are these listed in a sort of an order of priority?
I believe it's by date.
By what?
By date, the date you actually signed up.
I mean, it's quite extraordinary there are this many applications. It shows that harbor is important to us. But some of these people are going to have to wait a long time.
Yeah, and I would offer that our harbor master has been doing a wonderful job sorting through that list and keeping it factual and authentic in every way.
Well, Pat, I'll just go on the record and just say that I am definitely in support of this project. I think it would bring a lot to the town just for the reasons that you had stated. So, and it's clearly a need for it. Again, it always gets back to the money.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, but you know, I'm looking forward to seeing the plan.
Jim, I share your view on that, and this list gives the reason to do it. But on the other hand, this town is in potentially a very serious financial bind, so we have to be prudent about this. I mean, it'd be wonderful to have this started tomorrow and finished next year, but I think we're going to have to be a little careful.
Definitely.
Well, it's my understanding, too, that the town administrator has currently let a conceptual design contract out. Tony, if that's accurate.
We actually, the council approved. Yes. Obviously, it's referred to the administrator and the correct departments to go through. I think everyone here is absolutely in support of the project. This is a revenue generator. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. It's a revenue generator. It's an enjoyment generator. It gets people down on the water. It gets people from the water to downtown, and downtown is not Bristol. Downtown is part of Bristol, so it gets us to the rest of the community too. But I think we're all very concerned. Budget coming up specifically with with the lawsuit that we have with Warren and the additional dollars that we have to spend this year that we didn't have to spend last year has put us in a very challenging position for this year's budget. That, along with other things, makes it quite challenging. But as I just said, this is a revenue generator, so we're focused on this. But obviously, we need to be fiscally responsible, and you're not suggesting otherwise. So it's something that we would like to do right away, but I don't know if it's going to be able to be done this year, but certainly we'll look at it. So, yeah.
Well, I had some other points to make, but since I've heard exactly what I had hoped I'd hear, I don't have any reason to go any further at this point.
Well, don't let us cut you off. Is there any particular point you'd like to add to what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I do have a somewhat dated quote. It came from an old economics professor of mine in grad school. His name was Professor Sweeney.
Oh.
Same man that is Tim's father.
Yeah.
He often said, invest limited resources in opportunities yielding the greatest return. I make the case before you that this would yield a significant return.
We agree.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you for mentioning him.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad.
I'd like to acknowledge Marco Capaldi, also part of the Economic Development Commission that's with us.
I want to say a quick word or two and add to what Pat mentioned. Marco Capaldi of the Economic Development Commission. I've had the joy of serving for a little over a year now.
Yeah.
And one of the things I keep hearing is our downtown stores are empty. You know, we have a problem keeping traffic in town. Now we have the ability to bring in another modality of traffic. Mm-hmm. You know, and typically that traffic, if you look at Fort Adams and what they've done with their Marine Center in Newport, that traffic will park at a mooring for a good amount of time. So having a sustainable tourism base and continuing to have people to stay in our hotels, to come in and enjoy all of the beautiful museums and the, Blythewald and everything else we have, you have another modality. You also have a unique visitor count to weddings. So you have the ability now to bring in a whole new wedding class to this town. So, we're talking about other things in this town that are drivers. It's a significant driver. And what I ask you also is to consider very strongly that a state representative in East Greenwich proposed and very, very closely came at the State House to taking away our mooring revenue as a town. So if we lost our mooring revenue, who knows? These bills to generate revenue at the state level, they seem to have a shelf life and they return. They're like zombies. They keep coming up. Because, we were not tolling. We were all fighting these tolls on the Secundit Bridge, but voila, we've got tolls coming up in a couple of years in other places. So, I watch what you do. Even if I'm not here physically, I'm probably watching on TV. But
Thank you, Mike Davis.
I want to say that you're great stewards. You've done a great job. And I think that going forward, if we're looking at a chance to invest for revenue, and you're looking at ways of paying for past, transgressions or past things that, kind of like what's going on right now with the lawsuit, if you had to put one fine foot forward, this is definitely a project that, and I'm glad you share that sentiment. Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure that you heard that from me also.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I make a motion to receive and file, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
There's a motion to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item I3. This is the petition of Robert Healy for Bristol Buffet as council consideration to increase the number of available Class BV liquor licenses.
Good evening, Mr. Healy.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I don't know if I'm speaking loud enough or close enough. This is, again, about 3 months ago, I believe, we were in front of this council, and the council had some reservations because it was looking at its police force strength, and my understanding is that you're increasing that. They're having graduates come out of the academy shortly, which would probably add to your force. And we're also, I'm here representing Ben Luke, seeking the request that you add a full B license so that you can make application for said license. His operation, as he indicated, was going to start with the food, and he's trying. He's here. He can indicate that, obviously the business is going. It could be stronger with such a license, and I think that from my understanding, the board was not overly adverse to it. They were just wanting to get some space, to get some breather on the license and what have you. There were also some concerns about past credit issues on this license. And since that, and Mr. Luke has opened, and surprisingly, Mr. Luke has been using a lot of the local vendors. In fact, most of the vendors that have, I don't know about most, has been using some of the major vendors that have been there in the past that were concerned about this license have the receipts, so they're definitely doing business together. Whether or not it's still a cause for concern, I'm not sure. But Mr. Luke is trying. He's also using other local businesses, Arnold Lumber and Reliable Pest Control for his pest control issues. He wants to be a participant in the community, and he's certainly here to, fend for himself. But I don't know if this is particularly your time, because we're just asking that it be put out by having you increase your full B licenses by 1.
So I believe you stated that correctly, that our largest concern was a police force presence, taxing the police department. Chief, maybe you could speak to that. Has anything changed? Have we improved at all? Mr. Healy does rightly state that we do have applicants in the academy. How much time does it take till they're full police officers? Excuse the terminology, I know it's not correct, but...
We have cadets that are presently in the police academy, 4 of them. They will graduate in May. they're assigned to an FTO program. Before we can utilize them as full manpower, it'll be 6 to 8 months before those 4 individuals are put on the force and allowed to go out and be utilized as full-time patrol officers. I also have 3 other officers that I may lose come July 1st to July 10th. 2 of them unexpectedly. One walked into my office last week and informed me he's going to be leaving sometime in July. We have not been down this many officers in the last 15 years that I can recall. So it's going to be a while before we're back to where we need to be as far as full strength of personnel within the police department.
So it has not improved?
Please?
It has not improved?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
No.
So with the amount of licenses that we currently have out there, I believe it's 28 out there, granting more would be uncomfortable for you? I mean,
Yes.
do you feel there's a risk? There's a heightened risk?
That's correct.
Okay.
At this point, I think we're pretty safe. As Mary and Halsey usually are strong supporters of never increasing any alcohol licenses.
Right.
And usually I'm pretty flexible and willing to work, but I've asked that we take a close look at this, whether it be this license or any license. If anyone's coming in next week, I think we need to put a cap, as we have, and move slowly forward. When we have enough personnel that we'll be able to safely monitor what's out there, I feel more comfortable.
Thank you.
I just want to comment because I disagree slightly on this issue, because I have sat here for many years, and with all due respect to your situation with yours, but I know you have said in the past that the restaurants have not been an issue. And I've sat here for years and years and years, and tonight is no exception, where I'm ready to jump off the Mount Hope Bridge, no word of a lie, with the amount of liquor license issues in, let's extend the bars, let's throw away, like the bar seating, let's throw away all of our rules and regulations, let's have people sitting at the bars, at the, in the restaurants from 11 to 6 with music going on now. And here's this one restaurant that is, of all the years that I've sat here, that has been denied a license. I think it's totally inconsistent, and I would be happy to go through, if you go through all the records, to see how many times we've denied someone to start to establish a new license. That's been for better or worse, it's been the policy, right? Like a case-by-case basis, which we just discussed earlier in regards to the, dancing and entertainment licenses. So that's what we've had. We haven't ever had a limit of it's 28 or 29, and you got to wait till somebody to give it up. So here's this one, and we have sat here forever, where people have come in for multiple licenses, and we have been accused of not being business friendly. We have been accused of not doing economic development, etc. And they've all been establishments in the downtown area. And I have no doubt that if there was a restaurant that wanted to open in the downtown area, that we'd hear the same thing from a lot of people in the community. And here's this one family business that, is actually affordable to people with children, that has relatively slim margins, as most restaurants do, who's looking for a liquor license, and we're consistently saying no. It is totally opposite everything we have said for years and years and years and years and years. And I have I have a grave concern about that, because if we're going to put if that's the issue, is the police manpower, then everything we discussed earlier, the potential first reading on doing away with the number of bars, of seating at the bar, the issue of the policy of having dancing and entertainment on Sundays, we shouldn't be addressing any of that. All of that should be under the cap of the moratorium. In order to be, if you really want to be clear and consistent, that's what you need to do. Because I'm very disappointed, and I've said this before at this hearing about this gentleman's establishment. I've said it before. In all these other instances, there have been people from the Economic Development Commission or other private citizens who have gotten up and talked about economic development, and I think I've responded back saying it's too bad that our economic development has to focus on alcohol, to be perfectly honest with you. But nobody comes to this person's defense and makes the same case because maybe it's not as trendy a place as something that's going to open downtown. I think it's very unfair to this applicant, and I think it's very unfair of this council to single out one license because we have never in years denied anybody. And that's the problem. That's the problem I was trying to, part of the point I was trying to make earlier with Mike. If we change the policy on the dancing entertainment, it's going to be hard-pressed to deny it. But here's an example of the one case we're denying it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I have a real concern about that. I mean, it really aggravates me. And this, I'm not talking about the police department. I'm just talking in general, because it's like sort of picking and choosing, and it's not fair, it's not right, and we've gone against our own rules and our own policies from this.
I don't think it's picking and choosing, Mary. I'm telling you right now that we're short personnel. The next person that comes through the door, if they're on Thames Street or Main Street, Hope Street, I'm asking you not to do it. It has nothing to do with this restaurant right now. I know what you're saying. Exactly how you feel is how the personnel in my police department feels. We're the ones out there at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get these college individuals home, doing what they have to do. I think it's not a fair statement to make, though, if adding a stool or two in an establishment that's already been there for many years is quite different from, and I don't know, Mr. Ben Luke may run the best business we've ever had in this community, but we don't know that yet. These other businesses have been established. I can sign my name saying that I feel comfortable with whether it's Roberto's, whether it's Quito's, or any of those. I can't say that with Mr. Luke's because I have not seen him operating a business in Bristol. And it could be that way for any other person that would come here.
Well, I just think it's being inconsistent with what we have in front of us just even tonight for expansion, whether it's down on the waterfront, wherever it happens to be. And I do think in this particular business, individual's business, it's not like he's some newbie out of like nowhere. You could call the police chief in Warren and find out his record. I mean, he's been in business for 30-something years. He's owned 2 restaurants there. It's not like, and it's not even a place that's closed. It's a place that closes at like 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's not even a place that's closing at 1 in the morning.
Each restaurant has its own dynamics, and any liquor establishment does too. They're also a quarter of a mile from Roger Williams University. That's a concern of mine too, okay? And I have called Warren. They have ran a business there. There's been a couple of issues, nothing major, just like most restaurants here. That when you serve alcohol, there is a possibility that there could be some problems. There's no doubt about it. But that's why we're here, and we usually get very good cooperation from 99% of the restaurant owners and liquor establishments in this community. And that's what we're looking for. And I'm asking that you not give any, not to this one or to any other place, whether they come here from Thames Street.
I'm going to ask that we could take that into account when we look at all these other issues, because I think they're just as dangerous, personally, as anything else. Because every meeting, you know, it's going to, in the spring and summer are coming, and it's going to be, let's have, you know, this many more bar seats outside, and let's have this many more this, and let's have this more, and it's all alcohol. All alcohol. We're encouraging people now with music to sit at a bar all day long, even if it's a restaurant, and you know and I know that not everybody's eating for those 3 or 4 hours that they're sitting at those bars in restaurants, and they're going to be listening to music. Because, you know, the whole thing has gotten out of control, and I just think this is an unfortunate situation, you know, for one individual. That's all. That's my only point about it. But I don't think what we've seen earlier is any different.
And I think that's why it goes back to Councilman Stewart and I had a brief conversation with regards to serving alcohol on town property and in the parks. I have approximately 14 pages worth of some reference points that we did with some communities within the last 2 or 3 days. They would be forwarded to Mr. Texera, the town administrator, and then forwarded to you. This is a serious concern, you're absolutely right, of alcohol, and I think you know how consistent we've been. And when there's been a problem, I've brought them before you. I have closed places down the 3rd of July, and brought them before you the following council meeting and asked that you suspend their license, which has been done. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Not saying that that place would ever be there, but that's what we're trying to avoid here.
Is there any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Well, if there's a discussion, I'll have a discussion. Welcome back the 4th time, Mr. Healy.
Thank you.
Because this is the 4th time you're in front of this council. My colleague makes very valid points, as she did in the past. Also, I've looked at the meetings, I looked at the transcripts. This is very close to my heart. Any decision by myself and my colleagues for any business owner, as Councilwoman Perilla said, for our economic climate in our town, or any new owner coming into our town, and how we invite them. with that said, I also believe that there were concerns of consistency and balance that came about through the conversations of these meetings. And I thought about it as I was reflecting on all the meetings and whatnot. In one meeting, Councilwoman Perella stated that, we should have a liquor policy workshop because there's some discrepancies. And you're very familiar with the transfer of liquor when it's a business, that all liens be taken care of. So when we have business owners in front of us looking for licenses, we also have business owners that do business that work with the restaurant industry, that live in this town. Not to be speculative, all due aside with that matter, Mr. Luke just bought the building, and he's asking for us to add a liquor license. You said that in the past meeting that he's looking to enhance for the sustainability of his business, but it's a family-oriented restaurant. Why the BV license and not maybe a BV limited of beer and wine?
Well, generally, when you're dealing with Chinese food and Asian foods, you do have exotic drinks and mixed drinks of those sorts. That would require those.
Very well stated. Okay. I had to ask, though, just to put it out there for my colleagues.
I mean, that's just the nature of our...
Because sometimes with other restaurants, it has that conversation of, how about a limited B license, BV license.
Understood. I mean, that same issue comes up with places that serve, like, just taco food and stuff, and they want to serve a tequila drink. Not necessarily this restaurant, but I mean, I've seen this in the past related to, say, Mexican restaurants and such.
So getting back to the concerns of the future, my beliefs of the town with this issue, because it is an important issue to do with alcohol in our town, speaking with our solicitor and our reps, on when there's always a discrepancy, and you're familiar with alcohol licenses, when there's a business and then the separation of land and building use, which is any legal right of any business owner coming into a municipality on how they decide to do that. And with the concerns that were valid points concerned to our vendors, I would like to just propose to our solicitor of when the licenses go away because they're not renewed, but yet in our ordinance, say in this instance, we have 28. One doesn't get renewed, so it goes away, but still in our ordinance, we have 28. Is that correct on the books?
You actually amend your ordinance to reduce.
As soon as that happens?
Right.
Okay. So with that said, I'm just curious, because I am in support of a workshop to address not only the concerns of your concerns with any business owner looking to ask for a license, because this will impede us going forward in the future. So this is a very important decision for our liquor license policies. With all the concerns of my colleagues, the police, and your concerns of your applicant. So with that said, we should treat the licenses, and I don't know, because, I've been picking your brain, because I'm looking for an avenue to protect, because some people say, well, credit is, they shouldn't have done that. Well, credit is, we're probably helping another business in the time of need. So we can look at it that way also, to keep businesses going in our town. But can we treat our liquor licenses as a commodity where we hold them, and the stipulation is just like a tax roll or a mortgage, is anyone who wants to purchase that, you own those liens? Or is it just stipulated, it has to be segregated by that state law of just business? Can any municipality just treat liquor licenses as a commodity of when they come back to the town and not renewed? So that way, it's very well aware to anybody to give those protections going forward, so we don't have this situation, because this situation can happen again of the major concerns that everyone was speculating.
So it's kind of a multiple part question. Any license that is not used does go back to the town, and no license can be transferred without your approval. So there's no automatic transfer of a license without going through this public process. My advice to you and every other town I work for has always been, as soon as a license is no longer being used or has been abandoned or has never been picked up because of issues with the Division of Taxation or Secretary of State, is that you reduce the number, because the Supreme Court has said if there aren't there is not a license available, there's none to give out. If there is a license available and the applicant meets all your requirements, you need to give it out, which is fair, and that's what the law is, and that's fine. The other part of your question deals with the business versus the land, and as we're all aware, when it comes to restaurants, bars, whatever entity serves alcohol, many times there is a division between the owner of the property and the owner of the business. I mean, that's just the way business works. It's done for liability reasons. It's done for a lot of different reasons. The owner of the property is not responsible for the business end and the alcohol, and it's said that's very clear in state law. It's very clear in the case law. So, and why is that? Because the idea is that if someone owes you money, you always have the opportunity to sue that person. Now, maybe the person is bankrupt, etc., but that's sort of the way the system is. So I don't see, as we've discussed, Eddie, I don't see a way that, barring legislation, that we could ever connect the two legally and make a landowner responsible for bills that the business who may have rented from the landowner or whatever.
So let me ask it another way.
Go ahead.
Without changing the number, once it doesn't get renewed, it comes back to the town council in the town of Bristol.
Right.
Can we hold it and make our own stipulation at that point, regardless of state law? And this is why I think a workshop, she came up with a good idea. It's been 6 months. We haven't had a workshop. I think it was a great idea because we had a lot of other workshops. So is that some type of discussion that we can talk about going forward for perimeters of protection going forward and here in the town of Bristol to be proactive for every business owner?
I am more than happy to assist you with a workshop on this complicated liquor law. In reality, it's the state of Rhode Island that maintains the ability to grant licenses, and what the state does is it delegates to a liquor licensing board in each city and town the ability to act on their behalf. In most towns, it's the town council. In big cities like the city of Providence, they have a separate liquor licensing board. It's not the city council. But ultimately, there's always an appeal to the state, which has the ultimate authority to either grant or deny, because they're really just giving you their authority to do this. And the state makes the laws on this, so you have to be guided by them. Certainly, you have parameters that you can set when you create liquor licenses with regard to hours of operation and even bar stools and things like that. However, what you can't do is you can't make up rules that are different from one person than another. But right, it's simple non-discrimination. Whatever rules that you make up under state law have to be consistent with that state law and have to be consistently applied to anyone who applies. But again, we could spend a lot of time on this evening, but if you want a workshop on this, and we could even arrange to have someone from the State Liquor Control Board, for instance, come to that workshop and maybe further address some of these issues that you're discussing.
Thank you. Can I just finish, and then my colleague, Mary, is that all right if I just finish my statement to Mr. Healy? And at every meeting, I never made negative statements towards this new business owner coming in, even though motions were made, because we have to keep a business-friendly and future business climate when we consider all these licenses going forward, even after Mr. Luke. And that's why I don't, this council has to be very, very careful on if we're going to handcuff ourselves and when we make an important decision like this. From where I stand and the amount of time I spent on this, I want Mr. Luke to succeed. I look at the future of our town and the consideration of all departments and my colleagues' input and their concerns. My motion, if I was to make one, was to schedule a liquor license policy workshop and continue this matter to 6 months of the request. And the reason why I will continue it is because, if I'm not mistaken, this applicant is making a request for this license, and if there is a motion that is carried out tonight, there is a 1-year waiting period. Am I correct in saying that?
A one-year waiting period for what?
Meaning if you were here tonight and were to be denied your request, you would have to wait a year to come back to the council to apply again?
No. All he's requesting is that you create a new
Oh,
license,
create.
which you do by ordinance. That can be
Okay.
done at any time.
I
There's no
apologize
issue.
then. I was actually trying to, look out for you.
Yeah, I guess the only concern I really do have is that, he's invested his money in terms of operating a restaurant, as he said he would, opening a restaurant in January, then trying to do the right thing by, actually going to and dealing with the same vendors, and he's been really operating in good faith on this. And the reality comes down to there were 29 before, and a 6-month or 8-month wait before the license and a new business, a business of that sort. I mean, he took the, you can always say he took the chance, he rolled the dice, all that. But the reality is that if you want to help a business to grow in this town, that's family friendly, as we pointed out before earlier on, and that actually can operate on the other end of the town, closes early, runs as a food service largely, and uses the alcohol as a supplement to the business as opposed to the mainstay of the business. I don't know maybe the chief has more records than I have, but my understanding is that police were called when someone came in drunk. That's a problem. That's the responsible thing to do. So, I don't think that there are real reports of wild drinking at the establishment. I've been around Warren for a long time.
I don't think I ever said there was an issue with wild drinking or anything like that.
Yeah.
As I said, the routine police calls,
right,
as there are in our community.
So that's what I guess I'm trying to point out, Chief, is that we're looking at a restaurant that's not really problematic in terms of the scheme of things. You had 29 at one time not too long ago. I understand the chief's talking about the possibility of losing some officers, but that's in July. I'm really looking at, and Ben can talk to what he's been doing up there as an operation if you want to hear some of that, to help you on why you're looking at asking for a request for a license. But the reality is that type of business, as much as it's not going to depend on alcohol, draws people in because they can have a drink with their meal. They're not going to sit there all afternoon drinking. They're not going to sit there listening to a jazz band drinking. They're going to come in, have a buffet, which is a short-term thing, have one drink, maybe two. They just don't have that capacity to be as problematic. And I understand the chief's position. I do. I wouldn't want to, and I understand the council's position. I wouldn't want to be in the situation. But the problem is that you've got a business that's come in. You did have 29 licenses in the past. It's not like we're asking for an overextension beyond what was there. And I think that if you really want to, and I know everybody says that, it's if not this, it's economic development, and I'm not trying to play the arguments. I'm really just trying to tell you that if you really want to help businesses, here's one that you could do something for, and I could see it as a benefit to your town, and I don't see it as a big liability.
And it's not palatable for a BV Limited. We have done this in the past with new businesses to start out, and due to the type of cuisine.
Can I say something first? My name is Ben Luke, the owner of Bristol Buffet. As you all know, that we opened up about a month ago. Okay, this is a new business for us. We have never done a buffet before. All the other restaurants that we have done is always with the full liquor license and a sit-down dinner type of thing. But this is a new adventure for us, and we are learning as we are going every single day. We've done over a month already, and we have seen the numbers and so forth. And for us to maintain this business, we need help. Okay, as you all know you probably don't know, but the buffet all-you-can-eat business, you're working on a very low margin type of business. For me to sustain this business, I need help. I need the larger margin of products like the liquor in order for me to sustain the business. Okay, if you ask me to wait for 6 months to get my license, I may be out of business before I even start getting my license, and that is the issue. Okay? We close at 9 o'clock on the weekdays, 10 o'clock at night. We have very limited amount of actually college kids to come in because they all have their own, plan at the school. Most of the people that comes in are actually after they have their swim meet or their lacrosse meet that they want to come in for a full meal, and then they're gone. Okay, we do have some type of limit on the time that you can spend at the buffet, so it's not like somebody's going to go there and sit there and drink and drink and drink for hours and hours to come. We close at 10 o'clock. So, I mean, in terms of any loud crowd that comes in, they're almost nothing to none. Okay? So if the council asked me to, wait 6 months to try to get my license, I may be out of business before then.
How about the BV limited to stop?
Now, how does that work?
It's just beer and wine.
And then come back in about 6 months, ask for the full?
Every business owner has the right to come back to change.
Okay. Something is better than nothing. Because right now, people come in, contractors and a lot of workers that comes in for lunch. They want a beer or something with their meal. Okay? A lot of the people come in and say, oh, you don't have any liquors. I said, yeah, it's BYOB, but they don't have anything with them. Then they'll leave and go somewhere else to eat. So I'm losing a lot of revenues because of that.
Well, I went there to your restaurant one time with my nephew,
Right.
and I mean, basically, the people I saw, I think it was, I don't know, it might have been a Friday evening. I mean, they were either families with kids or they were older people.
Correct.
I mean, that's basically
But
what I
that's
saw there.
90% of our business is that. But they all like to have a drink while with them. So I'm losing a lot of revenue because of that.
I think the margin issue that you raise, I mean, when Mr. Healy brought it up and you just brought it up, I mean, that is the exact, this is why this bothers me a bit. I can go down the street, I can name every restaurant or establishment that even has beer and wine licenses, from coffee shops that needed to be competitive at the lunch crowd because somebody might want a wine with their lunch, and that we gave them a beer and wine license, and go right down the list, and every single person argument to us was they needed to be competitive. The other businesses all had it, so they were at a competitive disadvantage, and their margins were not enough in the food industry any longer, and that's not even a buffet, to sustain without the alcohol license. That is, I can name every restaurant down here, and that I've sat here on liquor licenses for, and they've all said exactly the same thing. So I mean, that is, and I believe it. I'm just saying, everybody says the same thing. So we've bought that argument many, many, many times, is my point, about that.
Yeah, without a liquor license, it's almost impossible for me to run it successfully.
But again, there was a BV license out there when we had meetings before. Is that correct in making that statement?
But when he first came forward, there was a full liquor license, and he asked for the license, and we took it away that same day. Am I correct?
After the November.
I mean, so he was here, he asked for the license, there was issues about the other vendors, and that license was taken away. So it wasn't like...
Actually, no. Actually, what happened, almost. The license was there, and he chose not to transfer it. That was his choice. That we didn't take it away from him. He had the choice to transfer, and he chose not to, which is certainly, you're right.
But we didn't purchase the business.
Right, I mean, to transfer and to expect, I mean, this is what, I hate to use this strong language, but this is one thing that's been on my mind about this, too. I mean, the idea to expect that this other unrelated business is going to pick up the $50,000, $100,000 tab for other businesses is extortion. I mean, that is ridiculous. And there's nobody, as much as you want to protect your own businesses and local vendors, I mean, he's using them, and my understanding is you were using them in your Warren restaurant, too, to some degree, weren't you?
I'm sorry?
Using some of the local vendors you're using now, you're using them for your other restaurants, too?
Correct.
You've been using them right along, right? It's not new.
Yeah, no. This
so...
is not just because we started this business, we start using Mr. Mello.
And that's why I made my statement, Councilwoman, about those policies of how those discussions were supposed to take place on those concerns.
Well, I need to share something, is that my concerns weren't, my stated concerns here and multiple times have been that we tax, as the chief has mentioned already. That was my primary concern and the reason why I voted not to add an additional liquor
If there's
license.
any issues...
Wait, let me finish, please. So
I'm like,
that's why I said no before. That's why I continue to not want to add a license at this point in time. But I'm also not suggesting that we couldn't look at this in the future. So I'm not saying I won't do it ever again. I just not right now. In my head, and that's where I'm going to tell you how I'm going to vote. I'm not going to vote for this because I don't think it's appropriate right now. So
how
but I would
be
ask...
limited?
That doesn't change it for me, and you made some fair arguments. You said about you have limited college kids, but I think the reason why you have limited college kids is that you don't have liquor, and the reason why it's quiet is partly because you don't have liquor. So if you add liquor, then that changes the world there. So am I saying you're not going to take care of it? No, I'm not, but it does add that extra layer of issue or potential issue. Therefore, that's why I can't vote for it.
But you understand that we have restaurants in town who I believe have liquor licenses, I know they do, who actually take Roger Williams University cards in payment.
We don't.
No, I know, but I mean, there are restaurants right downtown here that actually take the card and serve alcohol.
See, I guess,
So I'm just
to
saying
be clear,
that- just saying that that's just-
if I pointed out college, I probably shouldn't. You use that as an example. Doesn't make a difference to me who it is, honestly, whether it's a college student or it's anybody else, because a person's a person. So,
I think that if that's what we're going to do, and you're going to put this like sort of moratorium on it, I think that needs to be clear across the board as a statement from this council that until a year from now, when the police department is all up and you know, got all of it, their new people on, that no one should approach this council for a liquor license. Because I don't know that I have the faith, because I've not seen that happen until this case, that will happen. If there's some other great restaurant that's coming in, I'm not talking about the transfers, okay, because they're already there. But I mean, coming in, and we have established many, many new licenses, as all of us know. And I mean, I don't have faith that somebody else is coming in. I think we all know there's a lot of issues pertaining to this. And a lot of them have to do with the vendor, and a lot of them have to do with the prior owner of not paying his bills. And we all know that. And I think that's the unfortunate thing, that we have somebody who spent a lot of money to buy a building and property, and is trying to make a go of it, and it's being caught up in people's belief, and sometimes justified that other people got the short end of the stick. But that's not necessarily this person's problem or, you know, fault. So I'm just saying, like, he's sort of caught up in it, something much bigger than what it appears. And that's what I'm saying about that.
And
It's an unfortunate situation.
Councilman Sweeney's been waiting to speak. Please.
Mr. Luke, obviously, this body is here to serve the people of Bristol, so we need to make sure that the Bristol is safe. So there's one aspect of the safety that the chief's recommendation is, so we have to come to some sort of compromise. So I think this needs to be continued so we can talk about a BB limited.
Okay, so would you be comfortable with ask for BB limited for now?
Well, I need to have a discussion and continue. But for right now, I also wanted to talk about the small businesses. Currently in the process, when we've transferred, if there was any sort of outstanding debt due to small businesses in Bristol, there's some sort of reconciliation in regards to helping them out. And I understand you're using the vendors, and I think that's fantastic. That's great. But I think there needs to be some sort of effort to make them whole, whether that is like a 50% or a 25%, whatever you work out with those particular vendors. If I'm talking about Batista Bakery and Mellows Fruitland, to make some sort of effort. And my motion is to continue this to the March 30th. The March 30th.
Mr. Solicitor.
That's my word. It sounds like extortion to me, because does this issue with police and so forth go away if he pays those bills?
Mr. Solicitor, could you wait? Please, everybody. One moment.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
Sure. So, as I was explaining to Councilman Stewart earlier, the link between outstanding bills and the business is different if there's a different property owner.
Right.
So when you're considering whether or not to issue a license, whether it's a BV or a full license, this individual cannot be held responsible for those outstanding bills. And that's the law.
Right.
And I think Mary or someone put it well, and they said, it's unfortunate, it's really too bad, someone got the short end of the stick. That's all maybe very well true, but this gentleman is not responsible for that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So you can't
condition
condition a vote on creating a new license on whether or not people are made whole.
Right, and I sorry if I was sounding like I was going there. I was just asking him basically in regards to those businesses, if there was any meeting of the minds basically on it, but it had no bearing on whether that I was going that way for a vote. So I was just asking, on that status.
I think it's probably skirting the line, and I don't think that's your intention. At least I don't hear it that way.
No, it was a concern brought up by small businesses, and I at the last meeting, I know we had some small businesses approach us, and I was just curious on how that actually worked itself out.
So so Mr. Solicitor, it's fair to say that should not be in any way, shape, or form connected with.
No, and the fact that
you're not saying it is.
No, and the reality is, yes, there were small businesses at an open public meeting who got up in front of you and said they weren't paid. That's fine. They had the right to get up there and tell you that. Of course you're all aware of that. But that is not something that this gentleman is responsible for.
Correct. Okay. So I just think it's great that you are using those vendors. I think it's fantastic that you're using local vendors on that. And so on the safety issue in regards to, back chief, to the BB Limited, is maybe we can have a discussion about that.
Sure. I think that's a starting point. And I agree with Mary. I think that from this point on in, we have a moratorium. I'd like to see that. And we hold off issuing any license until the police department is up, whether it's 6 months or a year from now. As I said to you, I didn't anticipate. I had 2 more people walk in and tell me they were going to retire. So if we keep falling back and we keep issuing license, we're going to be in a predicament, is what I'm telling you. I'm trying to prevent that. That's all I'm trying to prevent.
Well, we definitely shouldn't be doing any big summer parks use in
That's totally up to you in the council, Mary, and I support whatever decision you make. I don't come here and solicit for parties and parks and restaurants to open up. I'm just telling you, each time it happens, it taxes the police department. I will show you at budget time how many times that the police respond to all these different locations and all these different events. And then I offer you to go out and look at other departments, see how they do it.
Chief,
I think we do very well with what we have.
Oh, I know absolutely, because I'm downtown. I'm down here every Thursday night. I can hear it all. I can see it all. I mean, I'm well aware of the situation.
And that's all I'm asking you to do, is to continue to cooperate, to keep us where we're at, keep us on track. That's all I'm asking.
That's why I make a motion to...
Mr. President, may
I just want to state, like I started to say, and I understand your concerns, and as I expressed, I've been balancing and trying to do my best with this situation on multitude of issues that are confronting this council going forward when we get the feedback from our departments and your applicant. And I understand the climate that he's in, so I'm willing to, and I think this council really needs, as Councilwoman Perella stated, really get engulfed with where we're going as a town with this issue. So my motion is to schedule a workshop with the liquor license policy and continue this request from this applicant in 3 months.
Yeah. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed because I just think it's this individual, maybe it's a victim of circumstance, but it seems to me very different than the way other people in similar situations have been treated for the length of time I've been on the council. So I don't support that. Because the problem is, we have told him to come back at certain times. We told him, come back, I think it was August. We said, we'll come back in a month or two, or come back in December. Then we told him to come back in March. And now he's in March, and now we tell him to come back in 3 months. I mean,
You're correct, and we never had the workshop you requested on September 9th.
Well, my workshop is far bigger than this issue. My workshop and my issues deal with all this stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why I said a multitude of issues.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We had a 4 in favor, 1 against for a workshop in 3 months.
Well, we're continuing this request for 3 months, so hopefully before 3 months
we'll
have that completed.
Clarification. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, the next item on the agenda is the annual invitation for the council to participate in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Newport, which is this weekend.
Lou, do we typically send a letter of thanks on that, or is it just a
I think it's usually a show up.
Yeah?
We don't...
I know I haven't been able to, that's why.
Yeah.
So, has anyone else gone to the...
If you would like me to, I can. I mean, it would probably arrive there afterwards, but,
Well,
but I'd be happy to, if the council would so direct me, I'd be happy to send the mayor a letter.
Okay.
Well, I think it's good manners to do that because we should appreciate the opportunity another town affords our...
Yes. I was actually going to go this year.
And I can't go, but...
I got scheduled to work.
It's a good idea to thank you.
You want to carry the ladder?
So Halsey made a motion to send a letter of thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is it all in favor?
Aye.
Good
Any
thought,
opposed?
Halsey.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the annual request from the Armenian National Committee to fly the Armenian flag on April 24th.
I make a motion to approve this request to fly the Armenian flag on April 24th of 2016.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the next...
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you.
Next item is item I-6, and this is from Councilman Stewart requesting for status of the RIDOT letter that was sent out in January.
I had no supporting documentation on this.
Yeah, me either.
I don't have
it.
There has been no response from the DOT?
Somewhat of a response. How's that? Not to be here, but they...
No, not here right tonight, but just a response of...
well, they actually, yes, they are coordinating. There was some communication regarding the coordination with National Grid and Bristol County Water for all the work that needs to be done at the 3 intersections of Tupelo, Chestnut, and Bayview. So they are coordinating all those efforts. Strictly just for the utilities at this time, okay? But as far as any other work, that's, that's pending.
I think the intention, with all due respect to the administration and the Community Development Department and the DPW and the police that are all going to be involved with these projects, is for this council to have conversations with a representative from the DOT and our concerns in a time frame on, again, a lot of issues that you had stated, but even whether it be the Senate turn lane or the feasibility of things going forward, especially on a statewide project, this conversation and dialogue, that's our concern with the DOT, that we want to be involved as a council in this municipality here in Bristol. So
agreed, and will not give up in trying to get them here because I certainly would like to see a full presentation to the council.
Thank you.
Councilman, what's your pleasure on this agenda item?
Again, what's the timetable you need, Tony?
I'll give my best shot to get them here for the next meeting.
Next meeting is kind of busy.
Well,
why don't we do April? Lou, is that okay? We could do it the same as the 10-yard Brook, so I get 2 of my requests on the same date. Okay.
That's the motion. Is there a second to continue?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let me ask it again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, Councilman Harrisoff provides a memorandum regarding the late William Rosini.
I just wanted to punctuate what I think is a general understanding of the great value of Bill Rosini to Bristol, and sad that he's passed away. You know, when he was the president of Roger Williams, he, along with the dean, Captain Harold Payson, saved the university because they were in very serious jeopardy. You know, a place starts up and they don't have enough money and they don't have enough students to go down. And Bill Rosini bridged the gap when they were really flat on their back and started the rise to the great condition of that university today. So I just wanted to punctuate what a great guy he was and what a great gentleman he was. And I think that if we, at some point, had some suitable place or street or something in Bristol, that we might name it for him. What occurs to me is maybe even that tiny park at the corner of Hope and Wood and Ferry Road. Maybe we could name it for Dr. Rizzini. Just a thought. Not that you're going to make any decision on those kind of things tonight.
Well, on that one, I think you worked out the details on that one as to who that's to be named after, so I don't think we have too many options. So that's not going to be a possibility to have that park named after him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I thought that would be a great place,
Yeah.
but other arrangements have already been made for that.
But I think we maybe will find another opportunity, and I hope that we would keep that thought on the table and when something good comes along.
If I could add just 2 cents, I used to see Bill at the bagel place in the morning, and his name was Bill. That's how he introduced himself. And if Bill loves cigars, and in fact his family put a couple of cigars in. I went to the wake, and I thought that was wonderful. They were celebrating his life, which was also wonderful. He was someone who was quick to share his thoughts. He was on the Charter Review Committee. I believe he was the chairman a couple of times, if my recollection is correct. Had some wonderful ideas, some of them that didn't go through, and he was quick to tell me all the reasons why we should have put them through. So I thought he was a gentleman. He was an interesting guy to talk to, and I gained a lot of wisdom from him. So, Halsey, what's your pleasure on this agenda item, sir?
Well, I would just ask that we receive and file, but not forget.
I'll second and keep the thought of possibilities, Councilor.
Exactly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from Councilman Harrisoff, a memo concerning the 2017 budget.
Well, I think as everybody knows, including those who are watching on TV, this council is about to embark on its consideration of the budget after submission of the details by the administrator and treasurer. I think this is a particularly challenging year, and we know that last year was also and caused us to raise the tax rate. It's going to take some clever planning and I think suitable restraint for us to hold the line this year, and I certainly hope we can do that. And I just wanted to punctuate that thought, which is certainly not by any means only mine. I think it's something that all of us at this table are cognizant about, but let's have a resolve to hold the line, even if we have to cut some things out.
Well, we definitely want to be, I agree with you, Halsey, and I'm looking forward to the budget hearings to hear each department head present their budget, and I'm sure we'll do what we need to do. Definitely.
Good.
Halsey, what's your pleasure on this item?
Receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Also from Councilman Harrisoff, he brings council's attention to what he perhaps rightfully calls an absurd state legislation that, if made law, would require Bristol enforcement.
I've been away for a bit, and I don't know how this is tracked, but, we have government to keep order and to benefit citizens, but too often absurd things come up. Now, this Senator Siccione, who I don't know, has put forth this idea before, and now it was presented again in 2016. And it's that he wants it to become a crime if the leaves off your tree blow onto the neighboring lot. Well, that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard of, because I, as a resident, or you as a resident, can't control the wind direction or the wind velocity, and we also can't know quite when a leaf's going to fall off. So I hope this is going to get shot down again, but if not, I think we ought to take a position on it and point out how absurd it is.
I think, Councilor, there might not be a need. Talking with representatives, I don't think this legislation is going to be planted in the House. But here in Bristol, let me just read this paragraph that we are proactive, and I think it kind of solidifies the same intent, but not to the mandate that Councilor Harrisoff is pertaining to. But the Town Council finds that trees are economically beneficial to the town and the community in attracting residents, visitors, and new industry, and further that healthy trees properly located, enhance the value and marketability of property, enhance the quality of life in the community, and promote the stability of neighborhoods by providing a healthy and more beautiful environment in which to live. The Town Council further finds that the town of Bristol has a great variety of both tree and shrub species, which should be protected and maintained in order to preserve the public health, safety, and general welfare. I think that is well put in our charter of how we address trees and how we feel the importance of how they should be maintained by our residents and the town itself. And hopefully, even better, when we have that meeting, Tony, we have our own pins and needles with our tree warden that we have to address.
That's correct.
And I believe that today, when there was an article, I didn't see the article, but I've heard it referenced, that the tree is actually the senator's neighbor's tree, and it's falling on his property. So that might add to the little bit of the behind-the-scenes piece of that, and that's supposedly reported in the Valley Breeze. So.
Who's the gentleman who used to say, and now you know
the rest
the
of
rest?
the story. I don't know, I'm just reporting what is supposedly reported out there. I did grab a copy of the Valley Breeze, but I haven't had time to look at it, so.
But you know, Mary, the most amazing thing about this story in the paper was that the state Senate voted 26-6 to pass the bill. And the bill would have required a $500 fine if your leaves or something blow on your neighbor's property, and it would ask the police department to enforce it. Well, Chief, you have more things to enforce than you have people, and you don't want to have to check on leaves.
Especially the town oak trees, which are our town oak sidewalks,
right.
which fall into the neighbor's grass.
That was a big discussion point on talk radio regarding that legislation, as too. Like, who's responsible for that?
Well, let's hope as
I think the tagging of the evidence would become a little bit of a problem.
They're talking about doing DNA, like, on the trees, like, whose trees.
Are we a Vegas show now?
Going in that direction.
No, the brevity's good. Keeps things light. So, Halsey, what is your pleasure on this item?
I would simply say that I hope that if this doesn't get killed in the House, that we then take some action to point out the absurdity of it and to try to get it killed. But for the moment, I'm satisfied just to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from Councilman Harrisoff, memorandum regarding Clean Bristol.
I just returned from a week in Japan where every streetscape is immaculate. You could eat your rice with chopsticks off the gutter if you wanted to, and you'd have no problem. And it just brings to mind the fact that, as you know, for about a year, I've been pushing for us to do better in keeping our streets, gutters, and sidewalks swept up. And to make the point, I've made a bunch of photographs around Bristol of the gutters and the drains and all the rest. And I say to you, it's totally unacceptable. I've shown here a picture of the gutters in Hiroshima, Japan, where you can't see a single thing. And I've shown you pictures of those in Bristol where there's all kinds of rubbish. And it's just disgraceful. I've also shown a picture of a fine citizen who's out with his broom cleaning an area. And maybe that's the way we've got to do this. But I just say that I want to continue I don't want to hurt anybody or I don't want to criticize anybody, but I want us to have our streets, gutters, and sidewalks clean so that this town that many of us think is the best town in Rhode Island can show it's also very good concerning keeping our town tidy and clean.
Halsey, where are these pictures? What street are these? Where are these?
Well, when I got back from Japan and saw this stuff, I made a bunch of pictures on particularly Hope Street from where we are up towards Franklin. Also, I took quite a few on Wood Street, pretty much in the downtown area south of St. Elizabeth's Church. And I took one picture in front of your house.
No.
But I didn't identify it.
And if there was a law requiring you to move your leaves...
I recognize the broom.
Well, no, it wasn't your broom, though. But
okay.
we got to somehow solve this. We don't want just token street sweeping. I think we want to get it right. You know, an example of what is happening is DuPont Landscaping does the area around here. And when I went around to take the pictures of the gutters and all, I found the street out in front of the town hall was perfect, which I was pleased to see. But they all should be perfect. We shouldn't have to tolerate this kind of muck being in front of us as we go around and do our daily business and want to enjoy our own town.
Yeah.
So I hope that this at last can be taken seriously and we can do something about it. You can't fix it all tomorrow, but you could fix it all in a few months. And I think we should have a program established to fix one area after another until it's finally all cleaned up.
So, Councilman, just for a fact-finding conclusion on your first statement that you started with, that you can eat off the catch basin's food with chopsticks where you visited, is that how they came up with sushi?
Well, I'm not familiar with that conjecture, but perhaps it helps make the point.
Okay. All right, I'm done for the night.
Say swear to God. Is there a motion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that this be continued to the next meeting, 3 weeks hence, with a request that the town administrator come back with a response to it, and hopefully a plan, modest or bold, to achieve the cleanouts we want. And maybe between now and then, some of these messes and clogged drains and all can be cleared up as the beginning of action toward the result that we need to have.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just had a question.
Mr.
Did you
Yes,
buy I know we talked before about those vacuum cleaners. Did we ever buy those vacuum cleaners?
No,
vacuum-
we did. That was
backpack-
with
the backpack
Jim
vacuums,
Galuska, with Director Galuska. No, he did not. But that's definitely a consideration. Well, let me just jump on a couple things, and these are not excuses, these are just facts. The first thing is spring sprung on us sooner than we expected. And for us to go out and begin sweeping and with the anticipation with cold weather, where if we get any black ice, that we have to go out and salt and sand the roads, then we back to a pretty tough predicament. As far as the catch basins, I hear you loud and clear on those. We've had two wind storms that really were not very favorable. They certainly knocked a lot of the stuff around and certainly had made things a little difficult. The other piece is we currently have 3 employees that are out in serious medical, not workman's comp, but serious medical conditions, and it's anticipated. So we right now down to a force of 30 employees at DPW. So there are some challenges, but I do agree with you. We need to do better, and we will continue to look at the situation. I've spoken with Director McBride, and we certainly will be looking at what's the plan of action going forward.
Let me ask you, if I may, a couple of questions.
Certainly.
How many brooms and dustpans and brushes do we have in the Department of Public Works?
I don't know that, but I certainly can find out.
The reason I ask that is that we don't want just a token running of the expensive streetscaper around. We just want to have a satisfactory result. So we should just put together a plan and provide whatever is needed to get it done. I mean, if you want, I'll go down with a broom and dustpan and brush and clean some of it, or I can get some volunteers to do some of that. So I simply ask that, regardless of what's happened in the past, that you please come up with a concerted plan of how we can accomplish the desirable goal. And some of us can help out. I'll go out in the morning and sweep up quite a bit of it if you make me do it.
Well, we do have such ordinance, for the sidewalks for folks to maintain the property. There are the sidewalks in front of their property, so we do have that. We just don't enforce it on a regular basis unless we really need to. And where we have something that is pretty ugly, and we've addressed some situations. But for general cleanup, folks can help out, and certainly we would appreciate if they do that. We will do our part going forward as far as doing street sweeping. We just got a new sweeper, so we should be able to kick in very soon and do that. But you got to keep in mind that, as I said, spring sprung sooner than we expected. We don't know what the weather conditions would be, and it would be very it would be somewhat of a waste if we had gone out and started sweeping the streets, previously. Although the catch basins, some of them, I was looking through those pictures, I'm not sure if any of them are on state property. We have reached out to the state.
They're right on the streets.
Well, if they're on Hope Street, we have asked the state to go out and do some maintenance as well.
Well, let me just say this. The town is dirty. Let's make it clean. I don't care what's happened in the past, and I don't care about excuses. Anything that is a desirable objective can be accomplished. And I hope you can set up a procedure and a schedule that it gets accomplished.
And I can tell you, taking pride, you're looking at myself and 3 of the councilors there. We go out, clean up day, and we out there ourselves, picking up trash in many of the areas of town. We've done that, at least I've known for at least 3 years, and I'm sure they'll be out there this year as well.
That's all fine.
So we take a lot of pride.
That's all fine, but let's not confuse work with results. We need results here.
So there's a motion, and there's a second to have this a plan of action or a conversation about it. I forgot which motion was, I'm sorry, but it was a plan, asking for a plan at our next meeting. And I think we have an opportunity to talk about this at the next meeting and talk about that plan and discuss its strengths and weaknesses if necessary, or maybe it needs no discussion, maybe it's perfect. But let's give an opportunity to have that happen. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I-11. This is from the Administrator regarding energy savings projects.
Let me just bring you up to speed. I mean, the report is pretty explanatory, I think. Thanks to Diane for compiling the information and maintaining and updated. But as you can see there on the street lighting maintenance, interview's been done, and currently the award will be going to, we hope to go to Siemens once the contract is reviewed by the solicitor to make sure that everything is up to par. As you can see there, the maintenance will be $39,000 currently for the system that we currently have, for the lights that we currently have. However, once we convert those to LEDs, the maintenance contract will drop to $10,000 per year. So there's a savings of $29,000. The other piece here, I will also like to thank Chief Canario and the officers that did go out and did an inventory of the lights. We were provided a list from National Grid. They went out on the late shift and they checked all the lights. They came out with 108 deficiencies. 58 of those, the lights are out. 48, there were no fixtures on the poles. So there is not even lights there. In 8, there were not even poles on the location that they were designated. So you're looking at 56 items that the town will be reimbursed for. The other 52 lights that are currently out, those will be replaced prior to signing off on the contract with National Grid. That was very clear on the conversation that we had with National Grid. The streetlight conversion, as you can see, there's 2 RFPs. In fact, I see that Diane and Julia are multitasking today. They reviewing the contracts for the RFPs, and eventually we're going to have the interviews, as you can see there. And the last piece there, there's the solar landfill in town buildings, and there is an RFP that's being drafted, or has been drafted, actually, and being reviewed, and that goes for the town buildings and landfill. And we also are considering, there is, I know, the most recent initiative is solarizing, and we did jump on board, and submitted an application for that as well.
Just as I don't want to be repetitive, but I stated in the past, especially with budgets and overruns, yearly, or how we keep an eye on it every council meeting, is that maintenance contract with Siemens. I just like for us to know what's included and what's not included. That might be potential add-ons once we get a relationship with them contractually.
We did vet that. We did go actually, because keep in mind that this is a joint effort with Barrington. So since we have the solicitor that covers both communities, he would be very cognizant and aware of, keeping a watch for us, for both communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, it's great that you guys worked with Barrington to reap such good savings. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's going to save us, what, 80% on an electric bill?
Please?
It's going to save us
definitely.
like 80%
Yes.
on an electric bill?
Yes, it will. More so once we convert them to LEDs. Initially, the savings is going to be is on the maintenance, going from $147,000 to, as you can see there, $39,000.
$39,000. It's huge.
Yes, it is huge savings. So I have to thank my team, Julie, Diane, Walter, and Kevin as well.
Nice job. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
Nice job. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, in that section, memorandum from my office, just sort of recounting a conversation with Representative Malik. He was asking that the council would send a resolution of support in consideration of this particular bill. I provide a copy.
I proudly make a motion that we send this resolution to our General Assembly in regards to First Sergeant P. Andrew McKenna.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
A most outstanding, selfless hero, and I think for us to back this good idea makes every bit of sense.
Excellent. I agree.
Agreed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, they're actually, perhaps if the council wants to consider the two of these together, it's the RFQ 837 and RFQ 838. These are basically the submission of qualifications from many good firms, and there are no figures to discuss. Just for the sake of time, what I would suggest is the copy was provided to you, and we'll just make it be known that if anyone has specific interest in knowing who did make these submissions, that they can contact me, and I'd be happy to provide it, but it's quite a long list to read.
And there's no dollars connected
No
to it,
dollars
as you
connected
just
to
already
it.
said.
Correct.
So, what, do we have a motion?
Well, as typically, you would usually refer
this
these
to the
things to the
administrator and department
administration to
heads?
act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And you did take the two of those together.
Yes, we did.
The next item is an executive session, and then we have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
Last Saturday night was the B. A lot of really good people. Council got up there and did a wonderfully difficult job of sitting down right away. Although it was a good effort. So, and we were there to support more in the dollars and morally, certainly not with the spelling. So this is just a glass that was from that night, just to point out that it's a wonderful thing. There's so many people get together, so many people volunteer their time, so many vendors give free a lot of what's there, so the Bristol Warren Education Foundation can support a multitude of wonderful programs. And those programs are not just for needy, they're for every kid, which is just wonderful. So it's a great program. We had a good time. Thank you very much. A couple of things. At our next council meeting, I want to put an agenda item on for a bond conversation. That actually came up a couple of times this evening. We need to talk about some bonds. We need to talk about them now so we can make sure we have enough time so we can get them on the November ballot if this council sees fit to do so. But those bonds need to include, and not limited to, but we need to do road work. We need to talk about, do we want more bonds out there for open space? Do we want more bonds out there for, a myriad of things that we need to take a look at? And drainage, Julia just whispered to me, because we're talking about obviously a 10-yard brook and what we're dealing with there. We need money so we can match money, so we can get money, as Councilman Harrishoff pointed out earlier, from the federal government. We need to have our own monies to match that, and then we need to have a shovel-ready project. Now, Bristol's very good at having a shovel-ready project and take advantage of dollars because we do it right. Not only do we take advantage of the dollars, but the end result is a quality product, and that's what we're known for. And that is in largest part by department heads that are involved in all of this, by the administrator, and honestly also by this council, not being too selfless here, or selfish, that we see the value of spending the money now. The Harbor Center is an example of that. There's a lot of money spent there, but it's the bigger picture, because our job is to plan, not just to make decisions for the moment, that we make plans for the future, too. I was driving around the harbor to take a look at, not in the harbor, around it, because a couple residents called me. I don't know if you can see this or not. It's a massive piece of wood, and Greg, I wanted to ask you this. It's got to be as big as a telephone pole, and a couple of the residents were very concerned that floats out into the harbor and takes somebody's hull out. I know it would take mine out if it went out there. And there was actually, this is right next to the Bristol Marine, and there was some other pieces of wood. One of them had this spike sticking out of it that I know if it went waterborne. So I wanted to know, obviously we need to take care of this. So I know that we work well with our apartments. Maybe we can get to work with DPW. We can get something down there, a backhoe, and get that out of there, because somebody's going to get, or their property's going to get hurt right away.
Is it more towards Bristol Marine?
It is towards Bristol Marine. That's a small one. This one's massive. This is just absolutely massive, and it's in the place where high and low tide.
I'll take a look. What we usually do this time of year is we go around and pick all that stuff up, and I bring it back. I put it right behind the fire station on that beach, and then when the crane comes down to put my docks back in, we pull all that stuff out, we cut it up, DPW takes it away.
Well, I'm very concerned. Residents brought it to me. We need to take care of this right away.
I'll go there first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay,
I'll go
thank
take
you.
a look at it. No problem.
Thank you. And actually, I wanted to leave on a positive note. It's Restaurant Week coming up. I don't know if you knew that. And a lot of our local restaurants are taking advantage of that. And wonderfully, our Bristol Merchants Association are going to stay open late for that Restaurant Week, which is wonderful news. So they're going to work in collaboration with the restaurants, so the restaurants are open, and when the patron leaves, they'll be able to go out and about. So when is that? That's Friday, March 12th through Sunday, March 20th. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of local restaurants that are taking advantage of it, and there's a whole bunch of local shops that will be open late to take advantage of them being around. So, last but not least, we had some difficult conversation here tonight, but I commend everybody for keeping the respect at a premium. So, thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Bodacious Bee was an awesome time. I really enjoyed the time with my colleagues. Louis did a great job as a pronouncer. And I just wanted to congratulate Michelle Martins and Chuck Roser and the committee. They did a great job. It was a well-oiled machine there. It went well. It was very smooth, and I'm looking forward to the next one. They raised over $60,000. It was amazing in one night. So great job. Kudos to them. Archie Martins and I this Sunday did Pedal Down Cancer. It was a 3-hour spin fundraiser. Raised over, looks like it's going to be close to $60,000 when it's all said and done. And so making people aware of cancer, and we all know somebody that's been affected by it, and it was a great day. A lot of turnout from Bristol residents, which was really cool. So long and the short of it, it was one of those memorable experiences. And then finally, I just wanted to make all my colleagues aware. I met with 14 different residents on Howe Drive. They were concerned about some flooding, and I've been meeting with Diane, and she's doing a great job. We're answering all their questions and getting back to them, but I just wanted to let you guys know that they did reach out to me about some concerning about the new development and some flooding, and we are addressing that. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good night.
Ms. Perella.
Well, our clerk did a great job in pronouncing the words, but he didn't give us very easy words. So.
And he didn't spell them out for us.
Right, I know. We were like, gee, Lou.
The temptation was there.
We're like, gee, Lou, good thing you don't like work for the council in giving us those hard words. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding around. It's always a fun time, and we, like when I think about the word that we missed, I thought, well, that's kind of crazy because we probably should have. But I don't know. It's just something about being up there and like having to spell at the spur of the moment. You get 30 seconds and it's clicking down. But anyway, be that as it may, it's always a good night, and it's a great fundraiser. And $60,000, that's really impressive. So, and the only other thing I don't really have anything else. I think I've said more than enough this evening. Is just to wish everyone a very happy Easter. I think the meeting that we have will be after Easter Sunday, and so that'll be coming up. So. Wish everyone a happy Easter and a holy week if they are participate in those religious opportunities.
Well, thank you. Happy Easter to you too.
Mr. Stewart.
I don't have much either. I'll just expound on the chairman of your proposed bond referendum issue that will be placed on the next agenda item. I thank you for that. I've been holding off myself with Director McBride and everybody because of the budget and the amounts that have to be attached to have that discussion amongst us. So thank you for doing that. Every meeting or workshop, I have faith in this council and my colleagues and the administration and the department heads. But more importantly, the residents and business owners, it's never easy. It's a balancing act, like I stated, and we do our best with the best interest going forward and being pertinent and execute and cross our T's and dot our I's. And sometimes it's not as popular, but I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody. I know we try our hardest. So with that said, as far as Councilman Sweeney, Diane does a great job. I did speak to a couple of planning board members pertaining to that street, and it is important that the residents know that retaining pond was kind of settled there at the end of that piece of land for many years that got into conjunction also with that landowner with zero runoff. And we keep going down this road when we have planning projects that every resident gets their notice, and we have some great residents that are very vocal and concerned about our town and runoff and the future of their neighborhoods. So we're very grateful for that. We're very cognizant of it, and we want to work with everybody. So to the people on House Street, we are working on it, and thank you, Councilman Sweeney, for addressing their issues along with Diane. More importantly, every meeting I thank Mike Davis. Mike has had a little setback, and we really, really appreciate the time and effort he's spending here with us to afford you the opportunity to look at our meeting at home. So we just thank you, Mike, and as I stated, and I believe my colleagues state to you, anything you need, just ask, and we're there for you, and we wish you the best. So with that, along with Sergeant-at-Arms Archie Martins, everybody who came out tonight, everybody tuning in at home, and as Councilwoman Perella said, all the families that celebrate a very sacred, happy Easter to you and your families, and enjoy this great weather, and just be, safe with all the people that are out and about walking with this sunshine. So thank you and have a great night.
Lou and Councilor Herreshoff, you give me just 1 second, I forgot something. You will see in upcoming packets, I've talked to Tony and Diane, that Diane will be signing off on any future projects that are in front of us. For example, Quitos. You're going to see Jessica sign off through Diane, or Diane sign off. So we know that the applicant went through the process, and that they know what's necessary, whether it's HDC, whether it's a sign permit. So we know that the applicant was told of the process, not so we can cover, it's more so they understand it, they go through it quickly, they get what they need, we get what we need. So we're going to see that going forward. Also at our next meeting, Jessica will be in front of us to share her successes thus far. She's been with us almost to 6 months at that point in time, so she's going to share what's happened thus far with us and with the residents. Thank you.
Mr. Harrisoff.
I have nothing further tonight.
Town Administrator, agenda items.
The first thing I would like to mention is, as you may have heard on the news today, the young man, the 8-year-old D. Strong, that wanted to be famous, he unfortunately passed away this morning. So our prayers and condolences are with the family. It was very unfortunate, as some of you may have seen him. He was at the State House and he was very proudly holding the hammer, what do you call the hammer?
Gavel?
The gavel, thank you. But he was pretty nice to see, but unfortunately he has passed on as of today. And happy St. Joseph's, happy St. Patrick's, and Feliz Pascua, Boas Festas. Okay. Good evening. Thank you.
How could we forget St. Patrick's and St. Joseph's Day?
Yes.
I don't know.
Zeppelins.
St. Mary's having a dinner on St. Joseph's Day. Lasagna. And Zapoles, they say, too, so that would be a good value in town.
Just saying.
We're going to convene into executive session pursuant to 42465A2 litigation regarding the Bristol Warren to the school district.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good night, everyone.